sitting here waiting, and it's not actually started. I have to hit another button that says start. Good lord.
Me not rust. I'm gonna go get
So now I have to wait for it to actually start.
Did you pass it? Oh, did you take it? Is that yours or his?
That's mine. He has his.
I have mine. Can't hear me.
It's not enough. Otherwise, put it in the worry.
It's fine. Whatever it is.
Are you sure that's yours?
I'm listening to him going,
Five? Please say yes.
Sorry, I can mute myself if that's annoying.
That's mine. I just had a piece. I took all the
Actually, I should.
Checking.
No black stuff on it and then we eat it.
Are you sure this was supposed to be put on?
Yes.
Hello.
Not a problem. It's the other part.
Really good.
Let's see.
Daniel,
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, hang on.
I want to wear some underwear.
All right, bada bing.
All right. Yeah, we are good to go.
All right. Can the
Rock
order
and roll.
be Daniel, Adam, me for the ABCs?
Well, let's
All right.
Yeah.
first. I guess so. Yeah. I was gonna say explain first what the
do that,
now
too.
we're actually live. So
Hello.
Nope. There's just they have to figure out what we're doing.
Does every thought count really? Does it? It does.
yeah, it's
We
actually
thought this count.
yeah,
I
I
think
do
so,
believe
too.
that.
because you
You know
can
why?
profit from a bad
Well,
example. So
It's going to
there you go.
undermine.
What if it's a bad example?
Well,
What if it's a
because
bad
every
thought?
thought. Because if
What's
you
that?
omit it, if you omit a certain thought, not only is it going to drive it further underground, for it to then fester
True.
unchecked or whatever, discussed or debated, but the market, the marketplace of ideas will filter out thoughts that don't like stand the test of scrutiny or the test of time. So if you have just a really outlandish, insane, whatever, or if you have like this an extremist thought, whatever that means,
The world.
the marketplace of ideas will debate it and go, okay, let's, given that everybody's being rational and objective, which good luck.
Will not
But
happen.
given that everybody's being rational and objective, you'll go, okay, now this is crazy. If you just said, hey, I think we should just build a society underwater. We went, okay, well,
Yes,
let's talk
rapture.
about the plausibility of that. But with no helmets, we just want to breathe underwater. And we go, well, scientifically, we know we need oxygen. That doesn't work. But thank you for the contribution. Thank you. We don't want to censor you. You know, we just delineated that was not a.
How you solve problems is by acknowledging the issue.
Yeah, I was.
That is how you solve
the
problems.
first
Otherwise-
thing I said is that yes, every thought counts in the sense that you can always profit from a bad example, a bad anything. So, all that good stuff. Now, originally, I said explain the idea behind what you were going to do with the ABCs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so go ahead and explain that.
oh, you want
'cause
me to-
then we can make
yeah,
this a
so-
weekly thing.
So sure. So we just go in a circle. A is for apples, and I'll say, and if you don't like that idea, Daniel will say B is for bombings, and then somebody will pick up on whatever word the person says, and we'll just do that. Hey, C is for camels. Well, whatever. Okay. And we don't even have to say if we don't like it. Just go. If you don't like it, the next person will go. D is for dogs. And hey, I had a dog once, and then boom, we're rolling
Yeah,
once we have
okay.
that.
Well, so still the premise of this, the whole point is to figure out an idea, something to talk about. Yeah, that's
Correct.
that's also at the core of this.
Sure.
Otherwise, we're just naming.
I just
words.
like listing fun words. I think.
Oh, I
we should-
see. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was
I
going to say
see,
you
yeah.
have to
We
explain
want
that
to
since
discuss.
that you did.
Oh, okay. I see.
Oh, that's
Yes.
the whole point of the
Now.
podcast. Is just
I think-
Civil discourse.
think of words.
Yeah, I
Then we
think
move
we're
on
good.
to the Greek alphabet and we go
Yeah,
Pi.
epsilon is for fucking something else.
exolot.
Delta is for one of the
Okay.
other word letters.
Oh, those
Okay.
already have meanings. But...
For how about AI art? There
Oh,
we go.
Jesus. Right
There
off
we
the
go.
bat.
That was quick. There we go. All right.
I
I'm
mean-
gonna be honest. I know you guys have very strong opinions about this. I haven't quite, I haven't decided. So somebody convince me. Why or why shouldn't we? We could start with Adam.
Okay, well, hold on.
Boy.
I got pull back a little. So you don't have any strong opinions about it at all?
I don't know. Well, in the sense of I'm undecided. I obviously have issues with it, and I also see benefits of it, I guess, but only at face value. Like I haven't really Like I see why it could drive artists out of the actual financial marketplace. I understand why it could go unchecked, why it may be valueless, why not. But like I haven't quite like I see some utility in it, but I don't know if morally it's a great thing, which is I know something you guys
Well,
delve into often.
well, I mean, I try. Well, morally speaking, it could. I have my. I have two positions on it. I have a moral position, and then a more. I'm going to use the word you love, objective, like fact-based reason. Like and just to go ahead and clear the air about that word right now. I already like. I know we had a big old talk about it the other day, but the whole point of it is just essentially just look at what's in front of you. Like look at the hard evidence, right? We're not assuming things. That's what I mean when I say, I'm being objective about something. I'm taking what is literally there, and then going from that. So, for AI art, my objective argument. Actually, I'll start with the moral argument. My moral argument is, one, it drives artists out of work. I don't, for my own definition of art, even it's not art to me. I think art requires human intent behind it. Now that's a whole can of worms, but I'll get through this real quick. And from the objective side of it, the thing that is so bad about it, so to take just for the sake of clarity, I'll just say we're talking about like images only. I'm not going to talk about video and voice work and all that music and crazy shit like that. Can you all still hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, yep, just make sure. So just for the sake of clarity, images only. So take something like Midjourney. That's like probably the most well-known, famous AI art generator. The way it creates images is an AI is fed, billions of images from across the internet, and then it categorizes those images somehow or some way, and then based on a text prompt that you enter, it will generate a new image. So, if you say, I don't know, give me a waterfall, it will basically cycle through all the images in its library that are of a waterfall or have been designated as one, and then produce a new image. And the part of that that's not great, the objectively bad part, is that these images were not obtained by asking permission. So every image that's on the internet, if it's an artist's work, anything, they were not asked to have their images taken for this. And so this AI art is having these generators are using stolen work to generate the new images. And I did a paper about this, and I looked into some of the creator of Midjourney's comments talking about how, there's no way, we don't have a database full of all these artists, there's no way they get permission from all these people. And while that is true, they still went ahead and did it. They were just like, can't get permission, so I'm just going to steal it. And so that's how a lot of this stuff works. There's no, I don't know how well those sites work to see if it's very for checking to see if your pictures or photos and stuff have been used in an AI art generation. I don't really know how well or how credible that is.
My guess is there's metadata. That's probably how they identify it. If your photo has metadata, it's just going to scan for that. Now, if the AI warps the metadata in some way, or removes it completely, I personally don't buy that.
I don't know how that works because metadata, I don't know how it works for pictures on your phone or something. I don't know if metadata is automatically created for an image or for a photo.
I believe it
is.
Take
it. Because as far as I know,
Google is that too.
Do what?
By that, would that mean that Google is immoral too, just because they Like Google Images, for example, just pops up an image from a website.
Well, it's popping up images that someone chose to upload, right?
And sure. Which you could argue Midjourney is going to
credits them. That's the thing. If you say, "Oh, I got this from
the photo," it shows where it's uploaded. And
you can actually click on that link.
I don't know if Google is necessarily. I know what you're going to get at, the whole idea that you can just, like, you know, because you can go on the Google Images and basically download any of those images. That is stealing. Like, that's not something anyone thinks about as stealing, but it is. Same with Facebook. Every photo you upload, someone can just download it. It could just be a photo of, like, your girlfriend or something. Someone can just download
a selfie.
That. It's weird. I'm surprised Facebook still allows that for, like, personal photos. Like, if it's like a meme,
unless there's like a digital watermark. I don't know if Google has any kind of, what would you call it, like some checks and balances.
Yeah, I'm surprised there isn't some sort of like digital, like you can put, there are such things as like, because you know you can watermark your photos. There is also I don't know if I'd necessarily call them digital watermarks. There's like, for some of my like Photoshop stuff before, like I've downloaded images for the purpose of reusing them in some other way, and sometimes those images, when they come in, they aren't JPEG. I forget what they come in as. It's not something that like I can even open on my computer. So clearly, there's some sort of something like that's working,
not a flag,
so that you don't.
I know what you're talking about.
The photo. But the vast majority of photos on the internet aren't that. Also, someone could just take a screenshot of it, re-upload the screenshot. It's a shittier quality photo, but you know it is what it is. It's still now out there.
Replication,
so, like,
yep.
Yeah, and so like one of my thoughts to like combat that was maybe to someone to create some sort of like database where the artists can opt in. That every AI art company and whatnot will have to go through that. Like,
what would be a benefit to that for the artist?
Well, hold on. I'll tell you right now. One, I'm getting there. So the point being here is that every company that has one of these AI art generators. So the idea behind it would be, okay, so you can only source the photos that you want from this database. It's an opt-in thing where the artists say, hey, I'm giving you permission to use my photos for these AI art generations. Now, is that going to result in a lot less images? Yeah, it will. But also at the same time, you're not stealing. Two, there are a lot of artists in favor of AI art. Like, there's plenty of people willing to give their work to these things. And so it's like the whole idea that it's like the whole what is it? Ask
like
for,
stock photos.
Don't ask for permission. Ask for forgiveness.
Okay.
Like
forgiveness. Yep.
Yeah. Essentially a stock photo type thing, like Adobe stock, anything that everything that's on there is licensed for that kind of use. Like that was my that's been my thought, like as a way to combat all the theft. Now, of course, it's not going to get rid of the theft, but it would create a more legal avenue for these companies, and they won't have to face what is probably inevitable laws that will come into place as a result.
I was going to say, it's a matter of time.
This is, it's a matter of time before we start having to have these crazy laws. Like, even like the deep fake stuff. Have you seen that shit? That shit's crazy.
Yes, like, that actually scares me. That scares me because
that one scares me too.
If you can replicate a video of me murdering someone and you show that in court, and you know, this is technically irrefutable proof that you murdered someone. I mean, we see that with Trump. We see that with people that are in the media enough to replicate enough of their likeness. Yeah, it's like Taylor Swift. It's like that. And, you know, we'll get to a point where the commoner, I hate to say, you know, commoner, the common person is that exposed. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's enough surveillance and stuff. That's weird. That's scary.
Yeah,
that is scary.
That is one of those keep you up at night. We'll have laws placed around it, and it would be nice if people could figure this all out for themselves at first. Like,
oh boy,
well, we barely understand the technology. Like, go ask a random person how AI art is made. But they probably don't know. I don't even really know that much. You know more about Midjourney than I do.
Well, because I went and used it. Like, because it works with Discord.
What a concept!
I looked into it. Because I wanted to write a paper about it, and because like I already didn't like it from a moral stance, but like I always want to have like actual fact-based reasons to not like it. If I'm gonna talk about it and say this is good or this is bad, you know, because I like morally speaking, depending on what it is, of course, like it's just not as much. It's not like arguing from my emotions is not necessarily a good thing, or not a good way to reach people. Well,
unless you could make the inherent case. Not if you say, hey, this is, well, what if you say this is damaging? Like, could you say, well, the artists, you're now injecting an amount of content of art into the, like metal bands that use, that like pay people for their album covers. We're already seeing like August Burns Red. You see bands that we know that are doing AI art. You can identify it pretty easily if you have a good eye, I think. And you go, well, that's taken from, for now, sure. But even that's all the proof you need to know that they're going to do it, right? That's great that we figured that out.
Well, yeah. Well, it's not a matter of people doing it. It's more so a matter of like the way in which it's done. Because yeah, again, morally speaking, I hate it. I think it's all like just that one example alone, August Burns Red, it has taken a job. Like that is already definitive proof. It's like the floodgates are open at this point, and so but that isn't necessarily like
that is crazy.
Because from a legal stance, I don't think that wouldn't hold up at all. Like that's not going to stop it. Because I mean, how many jobs over the years have been replaced by automation?
Computers, yes,
so,
of course.
Like that part is just going to be inevitable, and so there has to be another way around it. And I don't think the want for like human-made art is ever going to disappear, but it's going to be a matter of figuring out who is actually creating it, like legitimately, versus who's using an art generator.
What makes you say that the want won't? What if it's indistinguishable? Will people still want human-made art just for the novelty of knowing it's not a machine?
So.
Me personally, a lot of people out there don't give a shit.
Okay.
Like, they don't care.
No, they don't.
Me personally, yeah, because I value the skill in it, whereas a lot of people don't. I mean, we see this with all kinds of art, music, movies, everything. It's all devalued. It's all just a quick, consumption. It's whatever.
That's actually a great discussion. If, like, the proverbial monkey on the typewriter will eventually type Shakespeare. If that monkey typed Shakespeare without meaning to, and you read it, and I know this goes back to the death of the artist, but I think, that is an applicable thing to discuss. Is art, does it exist despite the creator's intent or like what would you say is that more of a subjective thing versus like this is art, even if a monkey made it or even if an AI made it? Does it have the same value?
Well, that goes back to the question of what is art.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that's a can of worms. I mean, it's not really a can of worms. Anything that I could make just about anything into a fucking can of worms if I want to, I guess. But I think I think definitions of art, like if you're not, because like there is the dictionary definition, but that's still, it's very broad. It's not as like once you get down into crazier things like a fire extinguisher, is that art? It's like, well, it was creativity when designing it, So like I'm more on the extreme side of like almost everything is art if it's been made by like, or at least designed.
Yeah, or could be interpreted as like, even if it's not from maybe a dictionary definition, if it's not art, if you go, well,
actually,
it's still something that was designed by a human or made by a human. I mean, then you could just get into, well, like, why does that? Because we have products manufactured by robots. So not that I'm playing devil's advocate, but I think distinguishing why art is different from why art is inherently more important to keep human versus just making a car on an assembly line.
Well, and I do need to change what I said slightly because I did say at least designed by humans, but even that's not necessarily true for me. Like with the monkey and the typewriter thing, if they accidentally type Shakespeare, okay, it's not art from the monkey's point of view. It's nothing. It's whatever.
It is though. So maybe there's two different kinds of receiving art versus creating it. Maybe that is two different. Maybe saying art is too, maybe it's not specific enough for our intentions.
Well, art is not specific to me at least.
Right.
That's the issue with saying it. It's a very broad swath of things, because like the monkey typewriter thing, yeah, you can take that piece of paper from the monkey because it doesn't give a shit about that paper. It's just gonna ball it up, chuck shit at it. But you could take that and now publish it and say, art. Now, is that shitty to do?
Right.
I don't know. Yeah,
it is. It's like the eye of the.
But people could still find value in that as we do Shakespeare. So.
Right.
How
weird.
The perception of it is probably the more important part, because it's two-pronged for me. It's the intent behind it, like the human intent,
the emotion.
We
care about emotion, right?
This is on the moral side of it for me. So, whether
the intellectual property is not the term I use. Generally, like if you are responsible for creating a character or creating whatever it is, an album cover. I know that's a hot topic right now. Is creating an album cover, and you go, okay, well, this was a human-made idea that stemmed from a human experience, from somebody who's undergoing the human condition, who is, and I guess this maybe is like, well, how close can we get AI to human? I think this it's almost like part of this discussion is we're gonna almost have to put a pin in it, because right now, if we have this discussion 5 years from now, it's going to be a completely different discussion, I think. So it really does, depend on how the human is perceiving the idea behind the art itself, because an AI can't do that. An AI doesn't. There's no what would you even call it? The word synthesis has been what I've been using lately. The synthesis behind the design creation is done formulaically, literally speaking. Yeah. It says, okay, I want a picture of a cow. Okay, well, I'm going to compile pictures of cows, kind of almost similar to if a brain operated without any additional context or emotion,
without dopamine, right? Without serotonin, just the neuron firing.
There's no intent behind it. It's just to literally spit out a formula, the end of a formula, versus, well, I want to create a cow based off of what my interpretation of a cow could be. A cow could, I could draw it psychedelically, or I could have it be this weird, based off of something that's purely human or metaphorical. The AI doesn't know that. The AI doesn't understand why it's making something. It really is the why, I think. The why behind the art. Because if you look at, because you could debate design all day. If you look at August Burns' Red album cover, it's called Death Below. To me, it looks horrendous. It doesn't even look like anything at all. And that's an unbiased take. I think if it looked cool, at least it looks cool.
I'm going to pull it up.
It doesn't even look like anything. But I think it's actually a perfect example of not just what AI art creates, but the formula behind what it creates. It really is just, there's no rhyme or reason behind what's typed in. And people love to use the argument, oh, well, a human typed that in, they're the artist. No, right? Like, this is why coming together on these definitions matters of what an artist is. An artist is different than somebody who just pieces words together in a way that essentially resembles a programming language. To me, that's they're just programming things, even if they use descriptive language, which one could almost argue if you do it in a way where you would write a novel. Like, imagine if you typed Shakespeare into Midjourney, what would you get? Would you get something different than somebody who just maybe used the base words of whatever, the story of Shakespeare? The
only thing I'd correct with what you said is the fact that
there's
really no rhyme or reason to the words, which there is technically, because you are choosing technically what you're typing in. And there is a reason. Quiet. There's something there. It's just, to me, it's not enough. Like, to say, because the composition of words, you could say that that could make you an artist if you're a writer, but the obvious idea behind it, I'm losing my train of thought. Hang on.
Adam, I think you're a little quiet. You got a little bit quieter there.
Oh, whack. Did you hear anything I said?
Yeah, we heard all that. It was just like at half volume.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I put my mic down. Hang on. I need to like. I wish I hadn't given you that mic stand now, because like now I need it.
For anyone listening, if
I
there are
didn't even
people
bring it.
there-
Doesn't that piss you off even more? I'm not even using
like,
it, so
maybe
no one's
just a
using
little
it.
bit, yeah. Like, you know.
That's fair. I
for
think that's
anyone in
valid.
the audience, we are not together. We are all separate currently, so we are recording through Adam, but we're not near each other, so that's why we're trying to get our audio things together.
I
I
mean,
think we're doing okay.
Andrew, can you turn on coordinates?
I can turn on coordinates. We're also playing Minecraft at the same time to help us think, because we're all a little bit goofy in the head.
I'm not.
Little
So,
neuro
Adam's not.
spicy, as they say. I hate that.
Neuro spicy.
It's so
I
hate
show
it.
coordinates.
But
Maybe we'll live stream that one day. There we go.
Okay.
All right. I mean, yeah, it's a tough one. I think Daniel's right that we can't know until we see what it becomes. I mean, I already think AI is insane. Like, I think we aren't even in the present moment. You, me, and Adam, and everyone, unless you've like worked on it or if you've typed in the right prompt, we haven't even seen what it's capable of yet. So I think it's even more of a concern currently than like. So I don't know. It does come down to the human emotion. Like, if you had to write down, okay, what were the main issues? You go, okay, is art more based on the creator's intent? Does it not matter if we just were put into a vat and it didn't matter where the art came from, a machine or human or dog or cow or monkey? Does that matter? That's a question. They're kind of unanswerables because of the fact that defining art's hard. Okay, is art more about the viewer or the creator? Is it both? I mean, it is both, but whenever you say art, that's a funny thing. I'm sure we're going to say this a lot. The human language, humans love to speak in binary and generalizations, so it's hard. Like, we would have to be even more specific and have this flow chart. Like all good, complicated things are. It's usually more than one dimensional. So, but it's so important because I value art. I think everyone does to some extent. Adam brought up a good point, the fire extinguisher thing. If you're an engineer, you might loosely use the term or strongly use the term, boy, if you love, or if you just see a rocket ship like Elon Musk, the self-landing aircraft. I wouldn't correct someone if they said, man, that is art. Like, I don't understand engineering a whole lot. But I can definitely tell you that is amazing.
Or like it's almost like I don't know if the term's like a colloquialism where they're saying, oh, it's art. Yeah, not literally, maybe,
what using it as a replacement for that's beautiful. It's amazing. It's creative.
Like the skill behind it is that has the finesse and the passion
and skill.
Like, it has the characteristics of what would otherwise be put into an art piece, or even the action itself or the product itself, whatever, resembles something that would require more than just an engineer. It requires artistic intent, or even can be perceived as such, like you said, because it is, I think, as much the perceiver as the artist. You look at, we talked about, on our own, we've talked about how a lot of people, including myself, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all of us will look at a beautiful twilight sky or a sunset and go, that is art. Like, we look at it in one way or another, whether it's definition wise, it wasn't intended to be art, because art's intent, and whatever. You can sit there all day and unpack that, and I'll maybe even do that if I'm just in an annoying mood. But you can look at it and go, this resembles that of a beautiful Vatican painting or whatever, something that's in the Louvre, or it's stunning whenever you look at this. Not by definition. No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, and you might not, but maybe somebody like myself who subscribes to a religion,
I know,
would and say, wow, look at the masterpiece that God made. Like, even that is kind of subjective, as opposed to maybe definition, when you go, well, no, this is
interesting.
Nature by definition can't be art.
If it is religious, you're saying, well, if God made it, okay, it's art because it has a creator.
Yeah, God would be the artist, given that was the intent. You have to ask God, but you have to say, well, did God create this purely for a thing of beauty, or is this just the way that photons whatever, intelligently designed to reflect off of our corneas or whatever. You know, it just happens to be stunning looking, and we take it stunning. Some people might look up at the sky and be like, I don't give a shit. Who cares? It's just just colors. It's just, you know.
Yeah, obviously,
I would judge those people harshly, but that's just
a theistic standpoint. It's completely different. And like that's why I don't really have I don't have any issue with someone saying that, because I get it. Like especially like when you just look at everything, the way everything is designed.
Yeah.
You know, from
physics
designed, or you know.
Yeah, you mean
like nature.
Yeah, not designed for me.
I say it.
Unless I've just become a Christian on stream. Oh my God.
Wow, we're saving people here.
Yeah, after all these years.
But yeah, I mean, like, especially going to places and you know, going to not just Europe but other places, you know, around the U.S. I mean, there's so many stunning places where, you know, you look in pictures even, and you're just like, you know, what a masterpiece. Like, that is kind of how almost our vernacular, our jargon does. It is emblematic of our tendency to identify art, even where it may not, definition wise, where it may not fit. We acknowledge art or music, you know, like songbirds. Like, if you take, you know, is a songbird aware that they're creating a song, or are they just, to them, just making noise? Like, it's kind of similar. Like, oh, that's a beautiful song. And songbirds, I'm just trying to get some tail. No pun intended. Like, I don't think they do.
I don't think they think they are.
No,
I don't think they think of that. I don't know. I'd have to ask an aviationist or whatever. An
avianist.
Someone who studies birds. What is that actually?
Birds. Yeah.
I'm gonna guess.
I don't know.
I'll look it up. I'll be the Googler here. Ready?
Yeah, you need to be the Googler. You're the
like Jamie. Yeah.
Jamie. That's a. But yeah, like, do they know that they're singing? You know, and we would go, "Wow, listen to that music; it's beautiful." Meanwhile, they're just operating completely on instinct. They don't even have they don't operate in that dimension, right?
Maybe our instinct is to create art. Maybe just like birds singing. Maybe we do it. We're just aware of it. Like all things fall due to gravity, but we're the only ones that know why, or at least we understand the concept. But that doesn't mean that not everything. Like, maybe art is a byproduct of things, but we just have the tools. Like a bird can create a nest. We understand engineering, but we understand engineering and create a perfect nest every time. We just know the science behind it. It could be that it is intrinsic to all things. We're aware of it more so because of our language and our larger brain.
I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far, like with the nest idea, because like that is like. Also, it's an ornithologist. That's what it is. Person
yes, sorry, I was gonna say
that's what it is.
Ornithology.
But like, I don't know if I go as far as stretching the definition out to that. Like, I think because I get what you're getting at, but at the same time, like, most art doesn't serve like a nest. That's like an evolutionary. You know, that's like a utility. You know, that's a thing that
doesn't help a monkey though. It only helps birds. It doesn't help a monkey.
For them,
like
yes,
a nest.
But that's my point. Is that humans, we are kind of at least as far as I know, unless dolphins are out there. I know dolphins and whatnot have fun. Like, they can be perceived as doing things that are not for their survival. But, like, we are the only species on the planet that, or animal on the planet that creates things that don't necessarily serve any, like, is it utilitarian purpose? That doesn't sound
like
which
some
you can
biological.
You can argue even if it's recreational, that could be utilitarian. If you say it keeps me happy, dopamine, even a dolphin playing, that might be good for their psyche.
Sure.
You know?
True.
That is true.
That's true.
Yeah, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, all that good stuff.
Yeah, makes
and I don't
Jack
think people think about art this way. Like, I would argue. I don't know about the majority. I haven't interviewed every single person. But based off the trends that I see and the way, the kinds of art that we consume on the mainstream, it doesn't seem like deep art or, you know, purposeful, valuable, you know, really not just unique, whatever, but art that takes time and you know, craftsmanship and takes, you know, this not even just skill, but like an
Years of
imagination
honing a
to
skill.
create it. This incredible, one of a kind idea that then was not only thought of, but then put into practice and created something out of it. And you go, wow, you look at the top of the Sistine Chapel or, something, you're like, that is just, you can't even, there's no words even for it. I don't think that art is thought of on that level. I think that's why a lot of the things that are consumed in the mainstream are, like we said, quick and convenient and just kind of half-assed. And I think that a lot of people look at art now as this kind of secondary or even tertiary product in society. It's just kind of to solve the problem of boredom, like a reel, or it's just to be a distraction. It is more utilitarian than ever. It's not this incredible, beautiful, spiritual, transcendental experience. It's not. It's oh, this is fun, or it's just, oh, this is cool and I like the way it sounds. They don't really go past that.
Of art. Like if you compare football to soccer, they're very different sports, right? But they both serve the same function to entertain. They both, even though the football rules are way more complicated, they take more time to understand. It's more, in depth. They both serve, and so if you have one song that's maybe serving like whenever they say, "Oh, you write music for musicians," we can think of a million bands that are like that.
Yeah, I've had people say that about. Yeah.
Wow. And this is kind of my devil's advocacy case, because I obviously lean towards the side of yes, music, or all art should be, appreciated in a particular way. It shouldn't be utilitarian. But I also recognize people that enjoy pop music, they might think about it differently than we do, because we do all have that music background. I think we talked about that a little bit. They might just want to have music just for that. Hey, and too much of that is obviously, I think, bad. We talked about that as well, like for literacy rates. If you listen to songs with dumb lyrics, I think that's bad. I think it's a misuse of the art. But if you enjoy it, I know it's a weird argument, but like if you enjoy the song, and this is where we get into the objectives too, is like, okay, Nicki Minaj, let's say you love her songs. We know that her songs aren't super, and I mean, a Nicki Minaj fan might disagree and go, no, I've listened to her since, whatever, the last 10 years, and she's a good artist, and they make a case. Yeah, obviously that we'd have to hear what that case is, but
I don't know if I'd be super interested in a conversation like that, only because, like, I don't know what, like, there are certain things where you can say, oh, good, bad artist, but, like, I mean, I don't really want to hear. I don't ever want to have that discussion with a Nicki Minaj fan. I'll be honest. I think I'd
hear them out.
Hot take here. I mean, I'll hear them out, but I think their opinion might generally be not one I could ever agree.
Well,
with.
And again, you have to maybe consider if there are trends. Do people who
would say
value Nicki Minaj or
I would never
like
not
any other
say,
mainstream pop artist.
Wait, Adam, why would you? Right. What would be the reason you wouldn't? I'm curious. Like, is it because?
What I was going to say is I would never not call Nicki Minaj an artist, though. That's the difference. So,
right.
I don't care for her art at all. Like, not even
for sure.
A tiny bit. There's nothing redeeming to me, but I won't not call it art. It is art.
She definitely is an artist, as much as
by definition.
Saying that.
Yeah.
Which brings up the question: what defines an artist? Is it anyone with the intent of creating art? Is that an artist?
Well,
I think so.
I think you have
if you want to boil it down.
I think you have to have created art, maybe, right? Yeah, like at least a piece of it. Because I mean, if you go your whole life,
otherwise you're an aspiring artist.
Create a piece of art, but you had the intent. I'm not going to call
at least
you an artist.
One.
Yeah.
Okay. So and then
and even that's a loose term.
It would sound a little pretentious to create one piece of art and they go, "I'm an artist."
Sure.
Like,
right.
But,
although, by definition,
a little hasty.
Yeah, by definition.
So what would be the reason? Like if somebody said, "Hey, I want to talk to you. I love Nicki Minaj." Let's say they were rational and reasonable, and they really wanted to, they were going to be earnest about their opinion, but they were going to be genuine.
Like our favorite artist, like let's say your favorite band member, your favorite singer, guitarist, drummer, bassist, whatever, said, "Oh my gosh, Nicki Minaj is the number one inspiration behind the music that I make. Here's why." And you went, "Oh my god, okay."
Assuming that's realistic. I mean, what would be your
What would be my response?
What would be your? Well, it's hard.
Why would you not entertain that idea?
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah.
I said I'd hear him
Or
out,
would
but
you?
I just generally, well, because I personally can't think of a single like. So I feel like I can picture the arguments already in my head. It's but if you're saying they're a rational and reasonable person, then I would say they're not even listening to Nicki Minaj.
Okay, go from there then. Go from there.
I'm
What
fucking
about her
kidding,
music
sort
does
of.
not attract rational people?
'Cause I don't know. I have guilty pleasures, right?
No,
I
yeah,
have.
don't.
I have.
I'm fucking around, but
You know.
I'll talk to anyone about
You,
anything.
you can put on "Party in the
Okay.
USA" by Miley
Oh,
Cyrus.
okay,
I
that was just.
that shit. I mean it. That song is a bop, as the kids say.
Oh,
I think that's a fun song. Do I think it's the greatest thing ever written? Do I think it even
I
really?
don't love Miley Cyrus. I don't think Miley Cyrus is
I
like.
love Miley Cyrus. No,
So then, what's the difference? Is
she's
it
talented. She's a good
I don't
separating
know.
the songs from the artist? Maybe.
no, because I mean, like Miley's a good singer. Like, and that's another thing. All these pop singers, like, they're all generally good singers. Like, none of them are
Yeah,
bad.
they are.
Yeah.
It's normally the lyrical content that I don't like behind most pop
Yeah.
music, and then also
The
just the music
vocal
itself.
fluency.
The music is
Yeah.
generally
Composition
just
is very
something I
good
feel
together.
like the chord progressions and notes used in pop music
Yeah.
are just ones that I just heard
Structure,
over
yeah,
and
song
over
structure.
again.
Okay,
It
then that
just
goes
gets
back
boring
then
to me.
to okay. Let's say I rate the same chord progression, right? Same key, same mode, same feel, same time signature, and
Yeah.
we played over Target, right? We know a lot of pop is the go-to background music. That is true. I
Yeah.
think they don't play
Right,
any.
yeah.
Country is
Well-
also in that. I'm putting country there. Country's
Well,
pop
I mean,
now.
Well, country. There's
popular-
pop country. Florida Georgia Line's a pop band, but it's just
popular
southern pop
music
rock.
though,
Sure.
right? Like that's why it's played everywhere. It's because it's what's popular, right?
I see. Yeah, and pop.
does
It's hard to
span-
like,
Yes.
It does
Is pop a
technically
genre,
span
or is it
Well,
a-
pop
genres,
is
but
kind of a genre. It did kind of morph into.
I don't know.
It's like it's what one of our friends would call corporate music, and I do think that really it is. It's a utilitarian product with the
feels
sole
like it.
purpose to generate money and play in the background and be like a utilitarian art product.
I mean,
Okay,
I won't deny
Right.
that I believe that, but I also can't deny that there is the possibility that that the artists themselves just like creating that stuff. Because I mean, a lot of people do like. I don't. What even is like Taylor Swift? Like, what is her music? What I can't. I don't want to call it pop. Like, what is it by genre?
People
Now.
say I've heard like
even know.
folk pop. I've heard country
Folk
pop.
pop.
I've heard bubblegum
Well,
pop.
pop is
but
like
it really mostly is.
pop.
But again,
So
I
pop
wanna,
has changed that.
I want to get.
I think
away
the
from
genre of pop in the past 70s,
Yeah.
right? Pop music was raw. It was what was popular, but I think pop became that genre. It
It
became
did become
electronic, easy beat, 4/4. Like we can identify those traits. We know. I think we know. I think we're being. I think it's good we're being that way, but we might be being like a little bit. Because obviously,
Yeah.
with any discussion, you got to define the terms, which is what we're doing. But with
Yeah,
pop,
I
it's
don't
like I
know.
think it's just that. You
Yeah,
know
I
it.
guess. I mean, we all kind of know what pop, or we all have an idea
Yeah.
of what pop is. It's just,
subjective, though.
it's a
important
problem.
to
But
define it.
I tried looking up what genre Taylor Swift is defined as, but it comes up as like it went from country to pop
Which
to
she used to be.
indie
Yeah.
folk, which
It's
indie
pop, well,
is hilarious.
Indie folk.
The fact that
In
anyone would call her an indie project is hilarious. That even that term doesn't
right.
mean what
Well,
it used
indie
to.
is in the genre
Yeah.
indie.
I know
the
that's
genre of
but
indie.
that used to mean independent, like it wasn't part of a label. It's stupid. All the
Yes.
terms. It's
which
fuck-
also
it's
that
all
I think
fucked up
changed.
now.
Like
yeah,
who would be another indie? Like not Bleachers, not the 1975 is not indie.
indie band.
It's also hard to put like
I don't
a
know, let's
genre.
see.
Like you do kind of limit music a little bit when you put it in a genre because it's like music. Now here's the
Cab
thing,
for
pop
Cutie,
music,
Modest Mouse, The Strokes, Arctic Monkeys.
The Strokes, Arctic Monkeys are definitely indie. Keep
Arctic
going.
Monkeys, I would say them. White
well,
Stripes.
it's funny because
The White Stripes.
do these
You own an Apple.
groups do they fit both the original definition and the new one? Like, are they independent and also part of
No,
now?
I don't
the
think that
genre
that-
indie.
Until they get
Generally,
big.
indie now applies to institutions. So, like an indie label or an indie
That's
whatever
genre.
store or something. Like indie now is more of a genre than an
Does that even make
independent.
fucking sense?
band.
An indie label?
No, but the language is changing. I think it's like I
Yeah,
don't think
I
people
can
know. People don't
Big
know
labels
what
that consider themselves indie labels.
Like they don't go,
I don't
I
care
love
what they
this
consider
indie.
themselves. I'm saying it doesn't make any fucking sense, really. Maybe it makes sense for them, but what does that
As
even
opposed
mean?
to like a
Isn't
major corporate
everyone
label like
independent then
Columbia.
at that point? Like, what does it mean to be an indie label?
You're not owned by like a major mega corporation or something. You're not owned by.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what that would
No,
be.
but now it's more the sound of music than the definition. Like if you say indie, like Fiona Apple
Yes.
is indie, but she's not independent. Like, but I would call her indie. Like I guess I would agree to call because I know
I would
what
say she's indie.
Who?
she's definitely indie.
I think that's fair.
Fiona, I don't know, and this is
She's
the hard part is a
indie.
lot of these people are small. Is Fiona Apple is just I think she's 90s and 2000s. Like it's
Either
like guitar,
way, whatever her genre is,
it's like contemporary
Right.
kind of, but with it's like
there's
if
still a
rock with
pop formula
contemporary.
that exists as a product.
Yeah, either way,
whatever you want to call that.
the terms are different now.
Right,
They're now genres instead of their original. It doesn't just mean popular music anymore. Like it means
Yeah.
I don't know what you call it. It's sort of electronic, not quite
Electronic.
club music, but that's usually what.
Yeah.
Like just a consistent.
Even that doesn't even really explain
Just a
what it
consistent
is. It's kind of its own
4/4
beast.
beat behind it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to define it either. I don't.
Well, so is
I actually don't.
Meshuggah, technically. But,
Well,
I
fair enough. I don't know how to give an example of what that sounds like, but just like.
But no, yeah, and that's it. It is one of those things, and this is a terrible argument, and I acknowledge that. It's one of those things you kind of know when you hear it. And I don't know. There are ways to define it. We could break down
You can't say that if you're trying to convince people otherwise. You can't just go, oh, you know what I mean? And they go, yeah.
But I'm saying for us, like we know that as music lovers and people who have, a music
background. Well, that's preaching to the choir, isn't it? If we were trying to tell someone, hey, look, this is an issue because this is something we should talk about because. Go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well,
But I'm just saying, whatever that genre is, like we can call it whatever. We can call it whatever we want, but it's acknowledging what it is. It's not. I wouldn't even call it a genre. It would be technically called a genre, but I see it more as a product, like a product of society almost. Like it really transcends musical boundaries, and this is part of the reason why I hate it, because there's no real soul in it. There's no authenticity or even any artistic integrity because of the powers that be that are creating it and the purpose for why they're creating it. So I don't even like putting it in the same box as a typical genre, because it's one thing to just make an indie song but it's more of a science project. It's almost like literally we use the word formula, but I see it as a science. It's like a science more than an art.
Like an equation. You plug in the variables, you change some things, but there's not
bringing things fully back around to the AI discussion. I think this is why, those of us who are against AI art, or one reason, is for the same reason that it's done to be a formula or a science, project, whatever. It's more technical than it is.
It just feels like the easy way out. And I'm not one. I don't want to always make the whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps type argument, but kind of like you want to be an artist.
Uses.
Fucking practice.
Learn, right?
It doesn't.
Right.
I don't like what I don't.
And there's people that call themselves artists who aren't.
I can't find value. Yeah, I know. Like the fucking
Logic
art,
10.
the mid journeys more of the artist than you are.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Not even SoundCloud. I mean, people who use AI art to make their product. I don't mean.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that in like a tongue-in-cheek way. I mean literally. People who go, I'm going to create some art, and then they type in fire, hell, gates, demon, print, or whatever, and then they get an art, and then they submit it to some band who says, "Here you go, thanks for the $50. I'm an artist." No, you're fucking not. You are not an artist. You're not. You are a programmer at best. And the closest that somebody like that would get to being an artist is if they maybe put together a string of characters. This is me being generous. Putting together a string of characters in text, meaning if you came up with something that was textually or whatever, I don't know if that's a word, but if you wrote out an AI script of some kind that was done so in an artistic ways. So yeah, like linguistically. So let's say you wrote a Shakespeare level. Well, and writers are artists, right? So that's my point.
Yes.
Is you're a different kind of. You're like,
person,
okay,
Like, yeah, like the person that just typed in the words, yeah, no. And I'm not even going to say programmer at best. No, that like even then, you don't get
Anyone
even
that can type can
I
do
don't
it.
think.
Kids can do
Because
it.
if you're talking programming,
It's
you're
not
talking
even
about
a
the people
programmer.
that created the AI. Those
Right,
people,
they wrote
you
the
could call
code.
them an
Yeah.
artist. The people
That's
that actually
amazing,
wrote
yeah.
the code for the AI, you could call them an artist.
Yeah.
But still,
Yeah, and I don't know if they would call themselves an artist because,
well, I don't care
again,
what
going
they
back
would
to
call
what
themselves
art is, that's a
necessarily.
skill.
I would consider
Yeah.
it to be an art. Well, every art has almost, I get, or yeah, it has to, right? Every art has a skill behind it.
Yeah. I would
Like,
hope. Not anymore.
Right, but not every skill is an art.
I don't
think.
it one.
Not by definition.
The
You
skydiving
could
in
look at
art?
it that way,
Yeah,
but
maybe not by definition.
I don't think that
but I'm saying
engineers are
you could-
inherently artists.
Maybe, I don't know. Like, depends on what
Architects
they're
are
doing.
artists, but that's because of what it takes to be an architect, as opposed to an
What?
engineer, which is again fundamentally
Well,
different. Art is
it's
part
not-
of the architectural process.
But so is it
For the
is it
design
art.
of the
What do you
building.
mean? Like,
But-
I don't. You have to design it, and generally speaking, you're not going to design like it. It almost feels like unless you're purposely trying to make something look like ugly or stupid to someone, like there is an art to figuring out one the functionality of something and then also the aesthetics of it. Going back to the fire extinguisher. Fire extinguisher, does it have to look that way? I don't know. Maybe whoever created it, maybe.
Well, but
just
does the
liked
engineer deal with the
looks like.
aesthetics? I don't think they may sometimes. I
Sure,
think there's
they
some
can.
overlap.
Oh, I see. I
But
think we have
that would be
there's a
They
disconnect.
could.
You know.
Depends
Daniel,
on
I think
if you're speaking strictly architectural, maybe not so much. But if you're going into
I think Daniel's
other
referring
areas
to
of
like
world,
the manual labor involved, like the guy with the hammer putting it together versus the guy that designed it. Yeah, the blueprint. I can see how that's art versus the guy that's just putting the nail in the peg. I don't know if he's an artist
the
so much as
engineer's
he
not
is a.
putting the.
Well,
not
I wouldn't
hammering
even
it
consider
either.
a blueprint to be inherently art because it's not intended to be. It's not done
So
so
what?
in a way that
You
is
could look-
fundamentally artistic.
Yeah, but if I pick up that
Well,
blueprint,
but that goes. You
and-
could look at anything in art. As
I
art.
agree.
No, I already said this. There's for one, well, yes and no. For one, it was created by a person, and then you could perceive
Right.
it as art. Why not?
That doesn't make the person an artist. Like that
maybe not to
doesn't because
them,
that's
I
then
guess.
that's
I don't
then more
know.
on the receiver than the producer, right? So like if someone creates a blueprint for a building, that how like and you probably maybe know this more than me or maybe Andrew, you know this more than me. I don't know as much, but if someone's putting something together to solve the problem of needing a building, right? You're there for the task of not creating an art piece. You're there to house people. You're there to build a bank. You're there to fulfill something utilitarian, right? Something that serves a
Okay.
purpose that is not inherently a creative one. It could be, and there could be overlap. If you design those blueprints, you're maybe a designer. I don't know even if a designer is inherently like
I mean,
just because you're creating or putting something together, I don't think inherently that it has artistic.
So it depends.
property,
If
or,
you are
you know,
designing
I don't
it, I
know.
think if you were designing
Yeah.
specifically, then
That's
I think
weird.
I could call you an artist. Whether you consider yourself one or not
maybe.
is whatever. I don't care what you think you are.
Yeah, let me think.
I would consider the person, if you are designing it, then sure. Doesn't matter if
Not if
it's-
you're just applying formulas. So like engineering is, as we know, it's like applied math. So if you're putting together formulas and
it
like it's
depends.
almost like art in a non-artistic way. It's weird. It's
That
like
depends.
math
Make it fun.
art.
You can
It's
probably-
weird. It's not. I
'cause
don't consider it
you
like
can
wow. Look
look
at this
at-
beautiful thing I made. It's
But you
replicable.
could look at
like you're
the
just
formu-
following
like,
a process.
You could look, well, if you are doing that, then maybe
No.
not. If you're just following if it's just a process, but math is not just a process. It's like a ridiculous amount of processes all working together. And if you,
Wait, hold on a
you
second.
can look
That's
at, what?
Go ahead. Sorry. No,
None of them are
well,
artistic.
if we're bringing math into it,
Well, no,
I
I
feel
don't
like
want
because
to. I don't really
No,
want
but-
to. I'm just refuting
Okay, then-
something here. The idea that
No-
you
Yeah,
can look
okay, go
at
ahead.
you can look at a bunch of formulas and you
Well, math is
can-
objective, though. I don't know if
Oh.
math is art, right?
Whatever. I'm not talking about that. You can look at a bunch of formulas, and you specifically could know how to better utilize them than someone else, and then you could then take those formulas and make them work towards whatever design or end goal, you could make those work better than someone else potentially. Like,
okay, so in the same way that you would with
point,
music theory,
you are
I
still
see.
designing it because you
But isn't that?
are
Are you a
putting things
logician
together in
then?
a different way, huh?
You're just using logic to piece them together, though. Like if you solve an
I don't know
equation,
if
I don't
you
know if that
are or
makes you an
not.
artist.
Right.
I mean,
That's kind of my argument.
What? Say it
I
again?
think that there is a skill that goes above and beyond. Goodness, above and beyond just. I don't want to devalue the. What would I call it? I don't want to devalue the. Whatever, for lack of a better word, creative aspect, and maybe even skills that would be considered or shared to be art or by artists, right? Considered to be art. Skills, related skills, were considered to be skills that could be maybe applied if an artist goes, oh yeah, I would start a sketch the same way that this person would start a blueprint. Yeah, that's similar. I think that's a correlation causation argument. Personally, I don't think that just because you draw something inherently makes you an artist. If the purpose is not for an artistic purpose,
That's
even if
tough.
someone else could perceive what you're doing as art, that's a weirdly. I'm trying to make sure none of those overlap with each other because that's an overly nuanced argument. But I think that applies here, and maybe I think it becomes art once it intent it becomes art. They go, you know what? I want to add some personal creativity to this and go beyond just the logic, just the math, just the equations, just the science. And that now you're an architect, right? That is kind of the fundamental difference. Maybe that's a little reductionist, but that's the fundamental difference between an architect and an engineer. Because an architect has the creative design side from an artist perspective, whereas an engineer has a design perspective from a mathematical or whatever, has the the design.
Do you even know how
purpose.
much math there is involved in architecture?
I know that there's a lot. And again, there's overlap from both, but I don't think that there's fundamental differences between architects and engineers, right? Well, I think we could agree on that.
I mean, there is a difference, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't call them an artist necessarily, because
which one, the engineer or the architect?
An architect is generally more, they start with the design of it. So like you can draw the most crazy fucking nonsense looking building ever. And then you would then work with an engineer to say, how the hell do we make this work? And so you're both collaborating.
Right. Why would you not just? But then why do you need the engineer?
What do you mean?
Like, and I know why. This is a rhetorical question. But you need the engineer because the engineer brings logic to what is otherwise an artistic endeavor or a creative endeavor from a design standpoint.
So here's the thing. Like, as an architect, you still have to know a lot. Like, it's to a point where
correct.
Like, you're not going to just say, I want my building to float in the air. Like, you can't do that. You're still following a lot of logic. You're still following building code, laws and all that.
Right. And you still need that in both.
An engineer in most cases is coming in to make sure things are structurally sound, stuff like that. But they can still have an influence on how the building turns out. Also, so here, let me give you a different example for engineers. So
from a math perspective.
Look at Lego. So Lego, the people who work there, it's all sorts of people, but there's engineers that work there that design the fucking Lego models. So like those Lego cars that have like borderline realistic working engines in them, designed by engineers. So would you consider them now an artist?
I do think that's art.
I do think Lego's art. I absolutely think Lego's art. 100%.
Okay, so then you would call those engineers.
But if you only had engineers working for Lego, no one would be designing the pieces. Like you wouldn't. Not to say that engineers can't help with the process, but I don't consider engineers to be inherently artists. I think that they can have artistic properties, and they certainly can be artists. I don't think that they are just in the trade, in the same way that a musician or an architect.
I'll be honest. I think
painter.
I guess you'd have to go per engineer at that point to figure it out.
Right. Well, and that's my point. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean inherently. If you look at the job of a musician, the job of a musician is inherently artistic. The job of a painter, the job of a I'm trying to think of one that
Well,
is that
my
absolutely, because
whole
you could say a
point
woodworker,
that
but not
A
necessarily
writer,
woodworker.
a writer,
my
a
whole point is
A
that
writer,
scriptwriter.
yeah,
many
whatever. I'm trying to think of less obvious ones, but yeah, and that's the thing is the job of an engineer. You could be the least. You cannot have an artistic bone in your body and be the best
What a
engineer in the
chef?
world.
A chef in ours? Or a baker?
of
Maybe
course.
what Daniel's saying is
Let me
like to
think
bake a
about that
cake,
for a second.
you need to
Really?
understand how temperature works, how rising temperatures work. But then the decoration, there's
But
not really a science to it
you can,
as much
dude.
so as the
There's
baking.
science in everything art, though. Like there's
That's true.
music theory. There's
That's
But is
color
there art in
theory for
everything
painting. Like
science?
you can't just say that just
Right,
because there's
right. It's
math
not
of science.
commutative. It's not
You know?
Yeah,
commutative.
everything.
So like, it's not just because like a rectangle is a square, but it's what is it? What's the one? A rectangle is a square, but a square is not a
A
rectangle, or
square,
whatever. Maybe
a
it's the other.
square is a rectangle. You could look at a square and go, "That's a rectangle," but you can't look at a rectangle and call it
Right.
a square. A square has to have the
Right.
four
So
dimensions.
just because there's math and
Okay.
music doesn't mean that there's
Mm.
music and math. And I know that that's kind of a weird take on what I was saying before, but just because there's art in science or whatever, just because there's science in the art doesn't mean that there's inherently art in the job that is utilizing the
I think that's
science. There
fair.
could
I
be.
can get behind that. I think.
Like I don't
I don't-
consider just if someone says I'm an engineer, I go, oh, you're an artist. No, you're a great logician.
Maybe.
You're
I
a
don't
great
know.
mathematician. You know,
You'd have to see what they actually work on because, truth be told, I don't have a fucking clue about engineering. Engineering is insane. I don't know how much of it is done for aesthetics, done for all sorts of things. So, like, let's take it to like
Might
people
be
who
part of a different
build like
conversation.
actual cars and shit, right? Or design them even. Because so like I think how it goes is there are people who will design the body of a car, and then you have to send it off to all the engineers who have to figure out how to fit all the shit inside of it. So there's
right?
that. That's
Which
one
none of that
component,
is
and
creative.
huh?
None of that is
That's
is
a
what I
hard
would
word
consider
to
to be.
use.
What do you
Let
mean?
me think. I personally believe the guy who invented the combustion engine was creative in the way he got it to work. Not in the same way
But that's more
Picasso's
than that's
creative.
not just being an engineer. That you are then
Okay.
as much an architect as an engineer at that point.
Then by
You're an
then by
inventor. An
definition,
inventor is an artist. You have to be artistic to invent, to create something, not just put pieces together. You're creating.
Well, no,
Like
you
that's
said
what it
just
takes
because
to
it
be an
has
artist.
creativity doesn't mean you're an artist.
That's
Just
true.
that's true.
So,
That is true.
like, what I'm getting
That's
at
true.
with so, I disagree with you completely about the fact that the people who design the body of a car and the engineers, like, I disagree completely that there's no creativity in that. Of course, there's creativity in that. Like, why wouldn't?
Well,
there
that
be?
wasn't what I said. I
Oh.
said if your engineers aren't the one designing it, so if the engineers are designing it,
They
they
have
are
to-
then doing more than putting the pieces together.
They have
right?
to
Engineer gets things to
design
work.
how that all fits inside of a new car, though. Every car is shaped differently. They have to figure out how they're going to get all of that in there, and they have to potentially design custom
me
parts.
see.
That's
Is
why
that-
every fucking
is that
car company has
artistic?
their own parts and shit. You know.
Tell me
But
this.
that's problem
If you-
solving. That's not
if you go
artistic.
to-
That's problem
What?
solving.
What
If
do
you go to
mean?
art school and they tell you, here's the technique for shading a circle, right? You draw the circle. They tell you how the shading works. Okay, it goes from a higher gradient to a lower gradient. If I go to art school, I'm not really a great artist personally. If I go and do that and I replicate all the steps that somebody much smarter and older than me has shown to work, am I an
Right.
artist? In the same way that if I build an engine using an exact manual, I'm not really being creative because I'm not using my own brain. I'm just copying the steps.
I mean,
But if
whatever.
you're, go ahead.
I was gonna say, whatever you think of your own work, whether you think it's good or not, is not necessarily the point there. Like, because I can
Right.
look at
And that's
that,
not at all my argument.
and I
Right.
don't
I
don't
agree.
necessarily think that. Like, I think art is two pronged. And maybe I need to change what I said earlier in that, because I don't think I actually believe it. Where I said it requires human intent and perception, I think it requires one or the other, to a degree. Maybe I don't. Well, no,
I
because
don't hate-
rather, I guess
let me
maybe it
think.
needs to have been created by a person. I'm getting all sort of tangled because that might not always apply. I don't
These
know.
are really complex things
know.
we're trying to piece together.
Because
Like, this is
when I really
not-
think about it,
and
like,
it's not
the
to
whole-
undermine what engineers do. Like, that's not at all my.
No,
like,
I know.
Engineers,
but-
some engineers are some of the smartest fucking people on this planet. I could
mean,
not imagine.
I guess we'd
doing
go
the things
case
that
by
they do.
case
It's
because
unbelievably talented.
I would agree that if you are just
That's
following
maybe
a
it.
formula, then yes, I would not consider you necessarily
Right. So it's more
an
nuanced,
artist at
I
that
think.
point.
Than even
Just
I'm
like
making
if
it.
you follow a recipe that someone else created and they gave you all the steps, I'm not necessarily going to call you a chef. Like I won't call I would never call myself a
Right.
chef.
I'll call you
Now-
maybe a baker. I'll give you the title of a cook.
Well, no,
You're a
because
cook.
the same thing applies
cooked
there. You
something.
could still be following steps, but because there are recipes and shit out there.
You can
like,
be a
for
cook and
chef,
follow
but
steps.
like when I would consider you a chef if you have the gift that all the greats have, right? You know, like you can taste foods and you can figure out what goes well together because there is a science there behind why things taste good together, but you can also arrange it in a creative and artistic way. And you can do that, I think, with literally almost anything.
I think that's a great example. Yes, because cooks or chefs, there is absolutely the science behind putting, like you said, the ingredients, your raw materials. But if you said, if you're just following a scientific or mathematical, whatever formula, you're a cook, right? By definition, you're cooking something. You are objectively, producing. And I think producing and creating, even though they may have similar maybe connotation and even a similar definition, I think there is a difference between creating something and producing something, or at least could be applied in a context that is different from one another. You say, well, I'm creating a car, I'm producing a car. Well, you're creating.
A factory produces.
Creating.
Factory is not like, yeah,
right.
You can produce.
If you created the body for a car, yes, absolutely, that's artistic. And if there's an engineer who's part of their job for whatever reason, just because I don't know, like you said, I don't know as much about engineering. Maybe that is part of it. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I'll totally admit that. I'll eat my words if an engineer says, no, I had a hand in putting together, the blueprint for this car. Even then I would, it's such a fine line. It's a gray area because I would say,
because
was
it
it done to be artistic? Or are you just doing it
Depends on if they
check
did
a
something
box?
revolutionary. If they said, hey, this will be fuel efficient to put this piston here instead of here, I think that's art in the sense that we said the fire extinguisher was art.
Well,
because you came up with it.
It's more so
unique.
It's the design aspect of it. So like with the car example, I'm pretty sure cars are almost entirely assembled via factories. So like I don't think I would consider the assembly of the car the artistic part. It's the design aspect. And when
right.
So people
do engineers design cars?
Exactly. I mean,
I don't know. I'm asking.
Do what?
I don't know. Do engineers design cars? I don't know that.
They do.
I assume that engineers
that's almost
is that
almost,
or maybe I'm asking the question wrong. Like
that's true because there are no
engineers
architects
design
for cars,
the car.
just engineers.
Or to what extent? Like, do they design?
So
because
you
like
have
the
people,
there's a design team for how a car looks versus how it runs. Right.
They probably do.
So if Hyundai says we're going to design this new car, so maybe there's some crossover. That's I think the difficult part.
Yeah, there's still an aspect of engineering to that, and even then, the people, because like you start out with the body, you're like, okay, we want to make a car that looks like this, okay, and they may be working off previous things. It may be the same frame as a,
Yeah, who does the cosmetics in the car? Is that an engineer?
Yeah, like the cosmetics, because you can say, well, I want to make a car that is this aerodynamic, this and that, and then you assemble a formula, right? You say, okay, I want this car to be safe, aerodynamic. I want it to
everything objective about
not
the car.
Look like anything else. That's kind of more creative. So okay, I'm coming up with a new design. But if you say I want to just fit check a bunch of boxes and go, okay, we want it to have these features that are objective features, right? If you say, okay, this is the safest car in the fucking world. Okay, well, to be a safe car, you have to, because of the physics behind it, you have to have it be this angle, and you have to have the front of it be this long and be made out of this metal and this, because you're doing a science project. That's not artistic. You're taking resources and you're assembling them in a way that a formula would, because you You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, you know
Yeah.
what? I'm feeling creative. I want to design something that's unique and stylish and sexy and cool and whatever. Let's do something. Let's make it look weird. Now we need to fit the mold of, okay, we need to
If you're
engineer
designing
this.
something- If you're designing something from scratch, like you don't have any previous stuff to work on, like I don't like the idea that just because you're using mathematical formulas, then whatever you're doing is not whatever creative or artistic. Because again, we've
Right,
already
and that's
established
and I don't
it's basically
believe
a
that.
science and art,
I think
but,
that's too reductionist. Personally.
the-
That's not what I meant.
So here, I looked it up. The people that design the body of a car. That's what I looked up. Who designs the body of a car? And they are known apparently as automotive designers or automotive stylists. They're specialized industrial designers who combine their technical knowledge of mechanics, production, and materials with artistic talent to improve the style, appearance, and ergonomic and aerodynamic design.
Those are definitely
of automobiles.
artists. I would call them artists for
Those
sure.
are definitely artists.
And here,
Definitely. I don't think anyone would disagree.
Okay, and now part of this though, so some of those words, the ergonomic thing, it said, the appearance and ergonomic and aerodynamic design, like they help with that. And there's almost absolutely engineering behind those two things, certainly.
Okay, so then maybe
aerodynamics, right?
But that's an artist using engineering. That's not an engineer being artistic, right?
Sure.
This is kind of going back to that commutative property. So where does the engineer come in the process? This is and I'm acting out of ignorance because I don't know how a fucking car is made. That's an insane process to do that, I imagine.
probably towards the beginning, they go, does the engine fucking run? Okay, now let's put some paint on it. That's the artist.
Right, but then they're going, okay, I'm using my knowledge of engineering, which we break down. I guess we would need to agree that engineering is not inherently artistic. If it's inherently artistic, like design is, design is inherently artistic. It has to be in the definition of what design is.
So here, the functional development of a vehicle, including the mechanical, electrical, software, electronic, and safety aspects, are usually completed by a team of automotive engineers, whereas the aesthetics and appearance of the vehicle are left in the talented and artistic hands of an automotive designer.
Right.
Even that I don't like even that. The implication that, because all of those other things, like that is everything except the aesthetics. And we're going to sit here and say that none of that could have an artistic element to it. Like it has to.
Not that it couldn't have it. I don't want to say that it couldn't, because that would be disingenuous to say that 100% of situations that are done by engineers do not rely on anything or could not rely on anything artistic. I don't believe that. I don't believe that, but when we look at engineering, or what maybe the primary
as a practice, right?
As a practice, right? If you say I'm going to be an engineer, that, like, you don't go to school to study art. You go to school to study math. If you go to school to be a designer, you are going to study. You're going to take classes on art or an art-related
because
skill.
Like the amount of shit I'm learning in my architecture program, like I thought it was way less artistic, but it's like way more than you'd think. And engineering,
and I would believe that.
You're not just learning math as an engineer. There's no way. If whenever you go to school for these intense the final class I have to take is called like final design class, and so you have to combine all your knowledge from all the semesters of work and design a building or something. And for engineers, I don't see why that would be any different. You have to combine all your knowledge that you've learned to design something, engineer it.
Well, but you guys are still doing two different things. You're designing a building from a creative aspect. They're doing it from...
Because why, like...
Design may not be the best word.
I
think it should be design. We need to look up the definition of design. I think that matters.
Okay.
Design.
Or you do it. Yeah.
Okay, and this is why I did that. I know that seemed superfluous. A plan or drawing to show the look and function or workings of a building, garment, or other object before it is built or made.
Wait.
An arrangement of lines or shapes created to form a pattern of decoration. Those are two different.
So it's both.
It's both, right?
I was going to say
one is engineering, one's architecture.
Huh?
Well, one of those, the first one, would be done, I think, primarily by
designing though. That's not what that is. That's just saying like that gives a weird like on paper definition
of a building.
And also, architecture definitely
but we have
encompasses engineering. Architecture is not just purely art.
No,
right? Like you're using them as binaries, which I don't think is.
Then you would just be an artist.
And oh man, I can't remember all three of them. It's like functionality, fucking beauty, and something else. I can't remember. Basically, like first and foremost, the building. It's like structure, functionality, and like beauty. It's like three things. It's like it has to be structurally sound, and then after that, it has to function as like something. Like it can't just be a structure.
A waste of space.
After that comes aesthetics, and engineers would play a part in that as well. And I would not. It would be weird to say. I'll agree. Maybe not every engineer is an artist, but there still can be art
in engineering. I agree with that.
Right, and I agree with that. And I'm more so speaking to what engineering is fundamentally. If someone says I'm an engineer, and I would go, well, what? Maybe I would have to say, well, what do you do? What is the scope of your role? And some engineers might be like, yeah, I actually have a hand in the creative process. Okay, you're maybe a different kind of engineer. And that's why this is so nuanced. But there's a difference. I think we would all agree that there's a difference in applying math to create or design something and applying art, among other things. But applying a creative side to designing something from that second definition, they work hand in hand with one another, and they both rely on each other to create a product, because you can't have a product without design number one, and you can't have a product without design number two. Otherwise, you'll just have a really cool blueprint that's incredibly creative and you could turn it into an album cover. Or you'll just have a bunch of math that it really is just a bunch of lines and might as well just be code at that point. Cover. Right, right. Well, and we're circling this back around because I do like to tie it in. I think that these are not, rather, let me phrase that correctly. I do not think that these are unrelated to the AI art conversation. And I think until everybody, which it won't happen, but until everybody, or at least those who wish to discuss the AI art conversation, are doing so at the same equal caliber, are on the same playing field as one another, and saying, well, what do we consider artistic? To what extent should, well, first of all, what is art? And to what extent should what we consider and agree on to be art be a part of the process of creating it? Whether it's human-made, whether it's whatever, a science of some kind using whatever, some theory or design principles, the more objective side of things, the skill, the technical side, whatever that is. And I don't think that a lot of the people that are having these conversations around AI art are going even a fraction that deep. No, and until that happens, I think we are going to struggle because they're going to go, well, who cares? Or they're going to completely misunderstand one of several things. But say, why does it matter if you use it?
All agree on a definition for what art is.
And that's okay. I just want us to be able to be speaking the same language. And I'm gonna use that phrase a lot on the podcast. But just to speak the same language, to go, if we're talking about creating something, let's identify what let's just use Midjourney because we've been using that one. Let's identify what Midjourney does. Is it a tool that's part of a larger program that is human made and all it does is speed up processes that aren't part of the creative process?
Being contested. If Midjourney is considered to be the tool, which I don't think any of us will ever let it be that simple, but if somebody can make that case and go, hey, it's just a paintbrush, you're not contesting whether or not I'm an artist just because I use a paintbrush versus a stencil or a pencil, but which I don't think. I know that takes words,
and that's no different than using a DAW to create music. There's tools that are insane that aren't human done. Well, but if you're using a tool that,
I wouldn't come from the tool angle anyway, because I guess it's a tool, but like it is different from like creating music.
People do. I'm arguing for that.
Like that would be. because you're going to say essentially that's those tools are created by other people, but what tool that you use as an artist isn't created by other people? Are you going out and making your own brushes?
Right, making a guitar, right. Right.
No, it's
well, and buying a guitar doesn't make you a musician.
So why are AI tools, and I'm playing devil's advocate, but then why are AI tools, and this is just to use it in a tool sense. This is not to use it as the basis for the art that you're creating. That's very different. But if I say, you know what, I just need to process this thing faster, or I need to use this, like if it's just an upgrade from a previous program.
That's a good point.
Right, like a search engine. Let's just say you have an AI-powered search engine. It's the same thing. I don't know how like Photoshop. Photoshop uses AI tools, but if it's still the person creating it. Well, and I'd be curious to see how those tools relate to the process compared to before. Is there a human element that's removed? Because then that matters, right? That's the difference.
Because I've thought about this before. Some things in Photoshop, yes, other things not. So there is literally now like something called a generative fill, and so what that means is that you can, let's say you just, have either of y'all used Photoshop?
No, but I think is it where if you say remove this person from this photo and it fills in the background with something that would make sense to be in the background, is that what that is?
So that plays partly into it, but not quite. Because it's not as simple as saying remove this person. It is still work. Like you have to go in and essentially think of Photoshop almost like a collage. Like if you're like editing a photo, think of it like you're looking at a piece of paper in a magazine. Like it's not as simple as just saying like you can't just. At least not yet. You can't just click the screen and it recognize that there's a person there.
Okay. I got it.
You still have to go in and essentially trace around them and then build a program to fill it in.
Okay.
Now, an AI generative fill is a new thing because that's an old thing. That the idea behind like cutting it out and then it filling in the background, like the hole that you created with something that makes sense in the context of the
doing it for you though. Speeding up the process.
Huh?
Well, wouldn't that just be speeding it? Like if you have a vision of what you want,
I see it,
and your tools do it for you. The tools aren't really doing it without the tools. Like you can't have that happen without the human telling the tools what to do. I guess it's different from Midjourney though, because hold on. I don't know if I like that.
See, Midjourney though, like I don't
very nuanced.
Yeah, like when I used Midjourney, I think my prompt was something like I typed in like forest on fire and then mountains in the background, and it produces images. But guess what? None of those are my vision. It is not. It produced four images, and then you could choose to like blow one up or do something else to it. And none of those are technically my vision. Like they aren't coming from my mind. Maybe I thought.
What would it be if it didn't have that?
What?
You would have to have created a tree then from scratch to fill that in. That's probably a dumb question. In fact, that is a dumb question.
Hold on. So like if I didn't use some sort of, I didn't even get to the generative fill. It's the same idea. Essentially, a generative fill though is that like there's multiple kinds of fills, but the two that we're talking about here is one is like you cut the person out and then you tell Photoshop to, I forget what it's called, I forget the name of it. It's a fill that fills in the space. So let's say it's a person standing on a bridge and you want to remove the person from it. And so you cut them out and then Photoshop will then fill it. You can tell it to fill it in with stuff that is contextual. So if there was like...
I thought is that it sort of figures out what would fill in the middle of that to help you.
Yeah, it does that based on what's in the photo. Now, a generative fill, though, that's not technically the same thing. The AI generative fill is something new they've introduced over the past year or so, where you can you cut out the person, and instead of it filling in like contextual information, you can type in a search box to fill in whatever you want. You say, put this there. Or it doesn't have to be a fill. You can just type in the search box now in Photoshop and say, give tiger. And now you have a tiger on your screen and you can play.
That's
incredible.
You want.
It's insane.
There was a great thought experiment that well, you guys know about the ship of Theseus, right? Where it goes, if you replace one part of a ship, it's the same ship, right? Like, if I put a different wheel on my tire, it's still the same car. We accept that. But what if I replace every part of the car over a certain period of time? Is it the same car? There's not an answer to that question because it's not really like you can't say our definitions don't allow us to answer that question. I think we're getting to the same point here where you're giving me an example of two tools. One that is generally accepted. Okay, you're doing the Photoshop. You don't do the generative fill. You do it on your own. You fill it in. You got to put in the work. But with the AI fill, it's sort of helping you complete your vision. It's not doing your whole vision, but it's doing a lot of it. I think you could keep going and go, well, what if you had it do half of the project for you? What if it generated 99% of the project? Would it still be art? Would it still be Photoshop because you're helping? Eventually you get to 100% where you would agree, no, that's not art because it's doing it for me.
That means
that's weird middle ground where at one point you would agree that it's art because you're doing it, and one point where you wouldn't, but we don't know where that is, just like how if you say, like, what is several? Is 3 several? No, but 4 is several, maybe? Or is 5 several? Or with a pile of dirt. If you add 1 grain of sand, is that a pile? No. If you add 2, is that a pile? No. 5, is that a pile
what's
of
the cutoff?
So what is it? At some point, it becomes, and I think it's one of those thought experiments where you can't really know. Because A, either way, we don't know enough about AI, or B, we're not talking about it with the right language. I think it is say nuance isn't even the right word. This is beyond our pay grade in terms of philosophical discussion of art. And I think we just all have to agree to disagree. All right, yay. Anyway, B. No, I'm just being dumb. B is for basketball. No, I'm just kidding. All right, we did A.
Yeah, like that's enough to
at
wrap
a certain
it up.
point that there's a cutoff, but like I can't, you know, like I'm not.
We don't know.
The
you can't know.
of what percentage of
no.
it has to change before.
Well, and I think because you need something concrete to go by, right? Otherwise, you'll just be in this liminal space, and nobody will.
We can't
nothing
know.
will change. Nobody will be able to talk about it. You have to have something concrete. But I think the fact that it is this complicated, this nuanced, this unprecedented, in pretty much every way, I think just because of that, it should be not only taken with or approached with extreme caution, even from people who support it. And I'm not against AI as a concept. I actually use it at my job a good amount. I've seen firsthand, not in an artistic sense, but in more of a technical sense. It is unbelievably fascinating.
For sure. I also use it.
And I have an appreciation for the technology, for the people who describe it. Right. So it is an incredible tool. And I'm not one of those, contrarian naysayers who just is against this new technology. And I don't think that it's going to breed Skynet. Some people may, and that's fine. It might. I don't know. I don't think it's that scary. Because they've said that about every technology since the beginning, dawn of fucking time. They said,
I know,
are going to do that. Books are going to replace memory. I don't believe, and maybe I like tech. I mean, maybe it's bias. I'll acknowledge that as bias. That's me being as objective as humanly possible. But I don't, in the art space, it is very different than just, hey, I need you to solve this line of code. And that also does take jobs. So I think that that's also part of a different conversation, maybe a similar conversation. And I factor that in. I don't want AI. I don't want any technology to take human jobs. I don't think that that's good for any society. But whenever we're discussing something and coming to the conclusion that the result, anywhere you look, ends up in one or more different types of a thought experiment or one or more different thought experiments entirely, I don't think that it's even morally or philosophically, what would you call it? Acceptable, I guess, for lack of a better word, to even take a concrete stance in one way or another. Like, I think that these are discussions that could never happen over social media, unfortunately, right? But
it's just way too
everyone needs to get on the same page that even if they blindly support or blindly whatever, fine. I can't tell you what to think or your opinions, but we all need to understand the scope of what we are dealing with here. Whenever we can even come without even do what?
knowing what's at stake. I think that's what you're.
Yeah, knowing that we're in uncharted waters and that a lot of this is way more complicated than I think people think, and even just getting people to admit that, yeah, okay, this is not just a standard black and white issue or even a standard technology that we're dealing with. Even if you support it, I'll go, okay, can we at least approach it with a degree of, I don't know, skepticism, caution, acknowledgement for what it is, acknowledgement that it could be used for nefarious purpose, something other than just this very baseline, well, who cares? It's a tool or whatever, man. Just, it doesn't matter how art gets created if I like it, or just these subjective, very unnuanced, very just elementary arguments, really. They're just not. They're the ones that at least that I've encountered over social media. There's no real depth to them.
I was about to say, I would be
That's
curious,
what I'm speaking to.
I would be curious to hear, I would love to talk to someone on here that has the opinion or that is in favor of it and actually has some reasoning behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
and I've heard some good arguments for it.
I don't think
none that I agree
yet.
with.
The only,
we can still bring them and refute them.
The best one
and do devil's advocate.
Huh?
We could still bring them on here. We could find them if you guys just screenshot them. Bring them on. We'll read them, and then we'll have a devil's advocate. One of us can do a devil's advocate, and we'll do that. If we can't get somebody, it'll be fun.
Are you on your phone or something?
That would be fun.
Terrible now.
Oh, is it bad? Hold on. Hold on, everyone.
Readjust.
It's been like that for a little bit, but.
And that'd be kind of fun. One of us could make a post or something, or both, and say, or whatever purposes, if we want to say why.
I mean,
please, and I like that. I like that idea that generates not only topics for our, for this, but also gets people talking.
I'll look around
and
to see if anyone's made any good videos on YouTube or something, and then see if I can get in contact with them. Because I would like
That'd be cool.
I would
really
like
awesome.
to have that discussion.
That would be cool.
That sound better?
And I would love that. And I am open to, considering. I think that there's a middle ground that can be achieved here, because I don't want to just throw away the entire product or just say, ban this technology from the art process. I think that it can be done. For example, like we were talking before, if there's a database of what would otherwise be stock photos, they say, I want to generate AI art that uses photos that, that are used with the artist's consent and I don't know, aren't used for commercial purposes. Even that, I would be willing to concede. If everybody's on the same page, I won't like it. I won't support it myself. That doesn't mean it has to be banned, which is talk about a fucking hot take.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I want AI art to be banned. I don't know if I'll go that far. It's just more so. From a moral standpoint, do I wish it didn't exist? Yeah, but from a legal or objective standpoint, no.
I want it to be banned if it's using artwork without the artist's consent. That's illegal. That's illegal already.
Well, no,
it's copyright.
From the legal standpoint, it shouldn't just be banned for that though. The people that stole need to be fined, and then a system needs to get put in place for. If these companies, because you can't stop them from existing, but some sort of law, some laws.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be bank robbers, but bank robbery is not.
Some laws need to go in place, to help, negate or deter,
prevent
these companies from just popping up and out of nowhere, and then after
they're everywhere now. There's a lot. There's companies that like Pinterest. Pinterest has AI art on it. Pinterest, which was essentially there to be a user sharing, of ideas and recipes and whatever. It was. It was very, community focused.
What do you mean?
Right. And what I mean is it's popping up on huge mainstream. Renowned, respected, accredited
it's on
platforms.
Facebook and Twitter. It has been though. I don't understand why.
Yeah, but it's specifically on Facebook is. I don't consider that to be like Pinterest is specifically centered around a community not art sharing. I wouldn't say that, but it's
just an
Pinterest and Facebook are there's difference.
It's just interest.
There's difference.
It's not necessarily. It's not like Etsy. It's not like everything on there is created by those people. It's just a platform for sharing photos that.
True.
Like,
I don't know.
really,
I don't know why maybe that one just
interest,
bothered me.
like you said. That's all Pinterest is. And so, yeah, of course, AI art is on there. I don't know.
I can see why that would be an issue. It'd be like saying, okay, every single post on Reddit now is AI generated. That would be as much of an issue as like if Pinterest is photo, like Instagram. If every photo on Instagram was, or if a lot of them were
Instagram, yeah, same thing.
That would be just as concerning as Pinterest.
I didn't expect it on.
I don't know. I don't.
Maybe that's it.
I don't. I mean, if
either way, they're popping up on a lot of different apps.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really.
Yeah.
It's no worse on Pinterest than it is anywhere else to me. It doesn't.
That's
make
fair.
a difference. But
it's just scary to see it being so. It is ubiquitous in every way, and it's harder and harder now to catch. I get fooled. I feel like a boomer. I get fooled by, by these images, and I'm like, wow. And then I've had my parents be like, that's fake. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I look closer or I find that it is an AI art. And I'm like, I got beat out by a Gen X. I'm getting fooled. I believe that it's a real photo. It fooled me. That is terrifying. And back to our point about the deep fakes. Yeah. I mean, not only could people which that's very unlikely, but the paranoid me is going to go, yeah, someone could fabricate something and whatever, and I think we all worry about that. Maybe the more you learn about it, that could happen to me.
I don't think it's paranoia at all. It's absolutely gonna happen to you.
Yeah.
Maybe not you,
but in media in general, like it's going to affect political campaigns. It's going to affect potentially, geopolitical issues.
That is genuinely insane. That is
like,
I mean, goodness. Sorry, go ahead.
Imagine you did murder someone. And then you could just be like, that was AI generated. What do you mean?
That's a good point, too.
Right.
The
inverse. You'd have to find a way to prove it, which you can.
I don't know how you do that. I'm not sure. It's like with the image thing. That's someone else's job that I know nothing about, like how the hell.
Me too. Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. Right. It's gonna be a weird fucking future.
Wow.
We're gonna. I do think we are headed for a future that, like they always said that, right? They always said, "Oh, in the future you'll be able to buy things without going to the store." Like they were able to predict with pretty good accuracy, actually, what the future. Maybe not flying cars. I mean, we do kind of have forms of. I mean, our planes are really amazing. We have private jets. I don't know if that was around back then. That's kind of a flying car.
Even that's a far cry from artificial fucking intelligence.
That's what I was getting at. Is we in the past people would respect their elders because their elders likely lived the life that they were about to live. If you were like, say, a native, they respected their elders because, okay, not to oversimplify their life, but it wasn't the progression that we've seen over the last few decades, just the last few decades, let alone hundreds and hundreds of years. We have seen, there's a great Michael Stevens Vsauce. He's one of those really smart guys on YouTube who plays this really cool video where he says every second is like 10,000 years passing. So every second in the video represents 10,000 years. And he says he's going to show pictures from each time period. And then at the end, you're going to see this quick blur that's going to represent all of modern progression. So like 30 seconds of that video is like a Neanderthal. And you're like, holy shit, if this is 30 seconds, then that's what? It's 300,000 or 3 million years of just this. And then, okay, now we have like feather dancing. And then, fire is like 2 seconds. So that was 200 years of us just having fire and nothing else. And then suddenly it goes pyramids, or those farming pyramids, the Eiffel Tower, the space station in the span of a fraction of a second. And it's a great, great model just to show. I mean, we were born in this. We have no reference for what things were like before even. Radio. The radio has only been around for, say, 100. It's amazing. And because of that,
the transistor itself is only 80 years old?
Yeah, probably that, if that long. Yeah.
Dang.
And that's just,
think about, another 50 years from now. I mean, these kinds of conversations are more than ever going to need to be had. And I guess conversely or inversely, I predict that they are going to be had less and less, culturally speaking. I don't think that maybe people will value having them because like podcasts are very popular, right? Love them or hate them, at least Joe Rogan brings on a ton of different people to talk about a ton of different things. There's a lot of conversations happening, and a lot of them are usually not on his behalf, usually because of the guest. Pretty intelligent conversations. He brought on Neil deGrasse Tyson. He brought on there's a couple physicists, really smart people. Angie, you'll probably know more than me, just their names. But he's brought on who's the guy? He's an unbelievably famous.
Is he Asian?
Yeah.
Dr. Kaku. He helped work with Einstein. Or not Einstein, Hawking.
He's a fucking
string theory. He actually helped develop it. And he's very socially awkward, borderline Aspergerian, but I think that actually is that makes sense to me, actually, that he's that way.
Absolutely.
A little awkward.
Sense. But these kinds of conversations, my point is they may be valued, and in podcasts where people are discussing may still be popular and where they're talking about things. I don't know if those are Joe Rogan's most popular episodes, right? So I don't know how much people actually care.
But then again,
I think they are going to happen Sure. I think they're going to happen less and less. I think there's going to be fewer and fewer occurrences of people having conversations, even like this. And none of us are obviously physicists or, on this genius level, like some of the people that he brings on that are coming up with fucking string theory. It's insanity. But, I personally try to have conversations like this. And now social media is not a great, I guess, medium, for lack of a better word, to facilitate those. But I see and this is maybe anecdotal, but I see a stark opposition towards even an environment that fosters this kind of discussion because of how either tribalistic or, like you said, Andrew, generalized or binary from a thinking standpoint that people are. And that's going to make addressing not just normal things, right, which normal life requires discussion and discourse, and it has for thousands of years back, but now not only are we having fewer conversations and maybe not as many deep, intelligent, nuanced conversations, but the topics that are arising that would otherwise be discussed and need to be discussed are unbelievably, insanely unprecedented and complex and multifaceted, and like the AI art thing, where the further we go, the more questions we have, right? We're not even really getting answers that we want, and we're realizing that you're going to reach this dead end because of what we're even attacking. That to me is, I don't even know, that's something that I don't know if that bothers a lot of people, but that actually like genuinely keeps me up at night. Like that actually weighs on my chest. And head.
The only thing I could say to maybe help you feel a little better there is that the whole idea that we're not having like conversations or whatever the way we used to, I somewhat agree. Like if you're talking social media, no, you're doomed. But in real life, in college, I can seem to have all sorts of discussions. Like when I took what was it called? Technology and Society was a class I took that just, it's all about how technology has influenced society from like the beginning of time until
now. I think I took that class actually.
And there, we did some experiments and stuff, like social experiments where, you have to talk to your classmates about certain things. And I was able to like have conversations and weigh like benefits versus
yes.
Jesus, what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever not benefits are.
Detriment.
Risks.
Risk, I guess. Yeah. Or costs, whatever, cost benefit analysis to things. And so, we would have to decide on these things like as a group. And so it's like, we don't all get our way, all this stuff. And so like,
well, but that's college though. Like I'm talking about the mainstream populace
Hang on.
doesn't discuss outside of social media.
Well, yeah, I know. Give me a second. I know it's in a classroom, and so like you're all there. Like you have to. Well, I guess you don't have to be there. It's college. You could choose not to show up, but whatever. Like you're there, and so you're in class, and so the assignment is to do this thing, and so everyone does it. And I don't, whether people walk away from that feeling like they benefited in some way, I couldn't know. But the fact is, people can do it. It's just a matter of, like how often do you, like, where where do you go where you can have this conversation really? You can't just walk around in public and be like, hey man, how do you feel about AI art? You got like 3 hours?
I wish.
You know, like
I do.
wish
Fuck
people
you. I go to the store and I go, hi, sir.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm kidding.
I mean,
I wish you could. Like, I wish, and even not to this level, but at least
you could try.
Beyond fucking small talk. God help us. Like, we don't even really do that. Some people do. I'm not going to say that doesn't happen. But it does seem like we're in a more isolated, individualistic, standoffish, maybe. And I think that was largely due to COVID. I think COVID really, kicked that into high gear. I think we were trending that way because of how social media is affecting our culture. But that's the thing is, where would people used to go to discuss? They used to socialize. They used to have the town square. They would go to the bathhouse, or they would go to,
these things
if you study ancient Rome, they had those places.
People still go to these places.
Right? Do people go to them? Like, do people utilize these spaces outside of social media? Do people interact with one another outside of small talk and just, because I try to have as many conversations as I can. And I think Andrew will attest to this. I really do. I try to interact with as many people as I can in different ways than they might expect. Because I for one, it's an interesting social experiment. Not in like a negative way. I try to always do it in a way that's nice and friendly and productive and constructive. Because it's an interesting social experiment for me personally. I like to just see how people react so I can just gather data and go, okay, the average social skill today is this level based off of these conversations. Very data driven, based off of inputs and social sciences and things I learned from my time as a communication student and just my own passions and interests. But also from society at large, which really can only be studied on social media via the channels that get interacted with the most, via the discussion areas or comment sections or whatever. Obviously, it's still a relatively small sample size compared to 300 million people or 8 billion people across the world. I'm not going to pretend that I know how all of society communicates. That's insane. It'd be very disingenuous. But based off of what I have seen, which I genuinely do make it a priority because I care about the future of society. I really do. I care about us being able to problem solve and be united and not just fall prey to the powers that be that can exploit a very divided, culture that doesn't interact with one another and who hates each other for every single possible reason and who lives in a complete echo chamber about every fucking topic on the planet. That scares me in a very, Brave New World 1984 way. That's kind of my weird... I don't know. Maybe some people don't care as much. I think all three of us are privy to these issues and see the larger implications. But that's my question. I know I kind of went on a tangent, but where is, usually the conversations I have are, let me say this in a way that doesn't sound pretentious, because I was going to say are unfulfilling. Oh, fuck you. That's how I feel. They are unfulfilling. They're unfulfilling. From a feeling standpoint, emotion standpoint, which I generally don't like to argue from, and also from what I would consider a data-driven standpoint. If you look at the complexity and the level and the just the content of what I'm talking about, outside of, hey, thanks, this donut tastes good, as opposed to, hey, so I don't know, something that's a little bit beyond just platitudes and small talk. This just doesn't seem like that happens anywhere outside of social media, and even then it doesn't really happen that much. So what do we have left? That's my question.
Hold on. Well, I don't think for one, these intelligent conversations that I don't think people maybe outside of the Greek philosophers who just sat around literally doing nothing but that all fucking day. I don't think at large the public has ever really been going out and doing that anyway. I think that normally these discussions will happen amongst groups of friends or stuff like that, stuff that where you are actively going to seek it out. And so for all I know, the people that you see these online discussions and you get this wild 8-word take from somebody on something that's just no nuance, no nothing, and you sit there and you go, wow, people, we can't communicate anymore. And I would agree, especially on social media, that we can't. But in real life, they might have friends, family, and all this stuff that they can have more in-depth conversations with, and they may. And you know what? They probably don't go to the depth that even we would like. But people still
that's
can
my hope.
do it.
That's a fleeting hope.
And you know what? I also get that not everyone has 3 hours to just throw aside every day. I think more people have that time than they are like. It's more so comes down they're not necessary. I don't think that many people are willing to set aside that time because they would rather do something else. And
and that's part of the same question. If they don't care, they're not going to have those conversations.
It depends. Like if they care about what you have to talk about, then sure. Like if they care about the topic, like for me, I generally, I like with politics and shit. I don't really. For one, I don't care. Number one is I'm not that knowledgeable on it, and two, it's because I don't care. I'm trying to get more into it now, just because the world is fucking crumbling and whatever. But I generally
you do care.
Well, but you can still have an intelligent, you can still approach things from the same, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. I do kind of believe that.
I care
at
about
least to some degree.
Usually, I can care about those things, but I don't care.
You care about the ramifications too, right?
I don't care for the way those topics are generally discussed, and so I don't want to have the discussion with people about politics because.
I definitely agree with that. Oh boy, yeah.
I'd be
those are the things that need to be talked about the most. Those are the things that are shaping the future of our world. I don't know. Yes, they suck to talk about. They're generally divisive, but that's why we need to approach these things from a common ground, and not just a linguistic standpoint.
They don't have to suck, right? That's the whole thing. It doesn't have to suck to talk about it.
They don't have to suck.
I think Adam means it's not worth it to him to, even if he knew everything about something and he was with somebody smart, if that person didn't respect him enough to have a civil conversation,
that's part of it.
Yeah,
right.
When it comes to
we're
politics,
unpacking kind of this larger conversation.
It doesn't happen at all. It doesn't even happen on the greatest stage, the debate floor of the two. Potential think about that.
I saw fucking, not to go off on a tangent, I saw a clip from that debate. I think we should cover it. I want to watch it.
We should cover it.
I want to
that would be great.
On the next episode we'll cover it. We're obviously already late.
There's a lot.
I know you somewhat watched it, Andrew, but man, I kind of need to see the whole thing because I think it'd be fun
just for the sake of
next time let's take an opportunity to watch it either together, independently, whatever. And then we can absolutely watch it and stream it and comment on the live stream
and pause it and go, let's talk about what he just said. Okay, pause it, play, pause. That would be fun to do about anything. We can do that about whatever. That's man.
That's funny. That's something that one of our favorite YouTubers does.
I was gonna say this podcast is anything and everything. We can talk about anything. Now, I will say this: when it comes to the political side of things, I'm not super knowledgeable, so I'm going to be coming at it from a more uninformed perspective, but I will happily.
In what way are you not?
Questions.
What do you mean specifically? You don't understand if you mean with the Constitution specifically, or with the way that
I don't shit, man. I don't
know current events.
That shit. When it comes to laws and specific things, if we took,
I love it.
Any new current event, I'm probably not gonna have read up on it prior, but I will end up doing the learning during. If you have a story or something that you see that you want to talk about, then we can pull it up and talk about it, and I'll ask questions. That's how I will get my info from that at that point, or do more digging myself at that point. But I'm generally not seeking out news, just because I can't stand CNN and Fox and all that. I can't watch it.
Well, and that's another part of this issue. The whole issue, everything we've been talking about.
Well, I know.
Probably since the fucking beginning, is where are people getting their information from, ourselves included, right? It's important to be that self-aware and go, how do I know what I know, right? That's what epistemology is.
Today, I fucking saw, of course, it got turned into a meme, and then I was like, huh, that's weird. And so I looked up the actual story, right? That happens so much, but I looked.
That's what I kind of
There's this meme that popped up. It's a story that just came out, I think yesterday or something, where some guy in the UK got arrested for holding or for carrying around a miniature Triforce sword from Zelda, the sword from Zelda or whatever.
Yeah.
It was a now. Here's
wow.
And so the thing was, the guy claimed it was apparently a fidget toy. It was a little 6-inch thing that you can buy here. Like it's from I've seen them before. The ads. I forget. It's like Katana something. They make little
Like an
miniatures
FYE or
of
something.
swords. They're kind of cool. Now the thing is, they what was not in that meme essentially. Like essentially the meme all it boiled down to was man arrested for liking Zelda, and it was
Right,
just a
right.
fidget toy.
Oh my
Now
God.
what's not in that meme? I went and looked it up. What's not in that meme? One, this I'm happy to believe the guy was using it as a fidget toy because really you can use anything as that. But it is an actual sharpened blade, so it does have the potential to actually
Okay.
stab someone. Um,
Would not
Two,
pass
he's
TSA check.
in the UK, it is illegal. You can't walk around with a knife in public
Yes.
like that. That like it's just straight up, no zero tolerance. He got sentenced
Right,
to
yeah,
4
they have
months
very
in
different
prison
laws.
for this.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
We'll see if it
Wow.
gets
Holy
overturned, but
shit.
as of right now, yeah, 4 months is what this guy is apparently serving. Now, the other thing that was
Wow.
in that meme, apparently this guy has a bit of a record for burglary. And so
Oh, then
not
fuck
that
him,
that
man.
excuses this, because like from what I read, the fucking the guy had done this like over several years of his life, like once in like 1992 and
Okay.
one another time in 2011 or something. So it had been a while since he'd done anything. So that's not a good reason to say this guy should have been arrested for this. But apparently it's likely that it's possible that the police knew who he was, like as part of
I
this.
was going to
So,
say that. They might have
like,
known him. Yes. Yes.
yeah, they know who this guy
That's a good
is. They
point.
know possibly his record. They see him carrying around what is a weapon, whether he's
Effectively a
using it as
knife,
fidget toy or
yeah.
not. Like,
Right.
Even here, we're not allowed, I don't think, legally speaking, to
open
carry
carry a
a
knife,
certain length
yeah.
blade.
Yeah.
Like, I can't just walk around in public with my fucking sword. Like, I'm gonna get talked
Yeah.
to. I probably won't get
You're
arrested,
cool, though.
maybe. But, yeah,
You might get
apparently the
arrested.
area he was in has a super high, like, knife violence and knife offense rate in that area. And so, like, he's walking around with a knife.
That's
so
a conversation
whole-
for another day.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, it's a whole bunch of things that like just
Anyway.
not in this meme at all. I bet fucking like two
Of
of those
course
people in
not.
the comments just didn't look it up. And like
I
I do
bet
it
that
all the
as
fucking
well.
time. I see shit that just gets turned into a meme. I'm like, what the fuck is this? What is it talking about? And then I go read into it. I'm like, oh, that's not. That was
Like, why
not
is that? Because
framed.
that hurts my soul to think that not only is that occurring by the masses, but it's becoming more commonplace, and the discourse around serious events that could potentially impact the future of the societies we live in are being reduced to such media, literally mediums, right? Like being reduced to such forms of content, of discussion, portrayal, whatever. Not even discussion, it's not the right word, but forms of whatever, of encapsulating events into, or containing them in, with memes or this meme culture. I'm not really saying this well, but that whole concept, the fact that, because that happens with everything. Companies now use memes and that kind of, structure to market. I mean, this is essentially the primary communication is now memes and social media posts and the like, things like that. That scares me, because if it was just, and this is probably someone's rebuttal will go, just let people enjoy things or it's fun and whatever, and you go, yeah, you can, and I go, yeah, it is fun. I love memes. I'll look at memes all day. They're fun,
Sure.
and I would go to that person, or respond and go, well, at what point does it stop just being fun? Like, social media is fun.
Yeah.
Social media reels are fun. TikTok, you could argue, is fun.
I can tell you.
The damage these apps are doing to not just society.
If you say what's the problem, right? If you say like, okay, because you know me, I love memes. I think memes are funny. I share them. I'm a huge proponent. I think it's and you could say, okay, well, duh, this isn't anything. It's the too much aspect. If you are an advertiser and you are everywhere and you have to be everywhere at all times, your job is to show up you're going to use whatever method you can to talk to people. I don't think it's the memes. It'd be like, again, like saying oh, words are bad because Hitler used words to say things. Because yeah, okay, yeah, he did, but that doesn't mean words are bad. Memes aren't bad just because they have those side effects of hey, we're only
No, and
communicating
that wasn't
through
my
them.
point. I mean,
Yeah, no, that's not what
hopefully
I'm
that
saying.
wasn't what I conveyed
Well,
because
but
that was
and they
not. Again, I love
well,
memes, but it's the propensity now for culture to resort to memes to not only gather information but share it. So now the discussions, they're not even discussions. The consumption of serious issues, very nuanced, like even just extrapolating on what could have happened with that guy, it provides context that completely changes the whole nature of the event. Like where you would
that's
go,
no different.
that's
That's
bullshit.
no
Why would that happen? And you go, oh, okay, that kind of
that's no
makes
different
sense,
than
even
a
though I don't.
that's no different than a splash article by a newspaper posted in the checkout line of the Lowe's that just has the thing on the
Well,
front
and
cover.
that
That's the exact
started
same
with
thing.
tabloids and magazines, and then social media, and then, like you said, yellow journalism back in the day. But it was never as ubiquitous. It was never as easy to create and easy to share and easy to replicate, whatever, as it is now. And then not only that, the content itself is devolving in a number of ways and being used. I don't want to say weaponized because I don't know if, I try to avoid
That's a
conspiracies or
little
sounding
loaded, but yeah.
conspiracy-ish, but I would argue that it maybe is being weaponized in ways to keep people, uninformed, distracted, keep them fighting over, things
I
because whenever you
I
can
feel like
reduce
people
anything
did
to a
that
binary, we
themselves.
said people love their binaries. Say that again?
I said I feel like people did that themselves. I don't like memes, like companies and whatnot, and everything has had to catch up with social media and how people now interact.
Maybe.
Like,
And if people did it themselves, that's even scarier because
well,
that
yeah,
means that
it sort of
it's
just
not even
happens.
someone doing it to us that we can fight. We can't. Who
It's
can
the
save us if we can't save ourselves? Kind of that
it's
generic
Our
the
own
concept.
short of
idiocy.
it's
We're
like
idiocracy. That's what we are. We're
it's the
idiots.
short
We
attention spans
absolutely.
contributed, all that good stuff. Go ahead, sorry.
That's what it is. That's where I was kind of going originally with that was because of how just common memes are, because we consume social media so much. Yeah, it makes sense that any medium of communication we use is going to be abused. You could even like it doesn't have to be memes. It could be one. It could be quick Facebook posts where they go, "Boy, I really hated the blah that went down the blah," and then you just have the exact same thing. The meme is just done in jest or it's done, yeah, in that same hyphenated talk. But I think you could do that a
Well,
million
but
different
people
ways
don't look
without
any
just
further
memes.
than that, though. Like Adam just said,
Right, right, right,
chances
right.
are, and maybe, I don't want to assume, but if nobody looks further than just, oh, someone got arrested for liking Zelda, OMG, and then they share
Actually,
that,
that's
and
no
if they genuinely believe that the buck stops there, like,
that's no different than
I mean, I think it goes without
a
saying,
rumor.
right?
That's a rumor. If you go, oh, I heard a rumor the other day that John and Brad, whatever, are gay. That's the exact same thing
But
as just
people
taking it at face
love their
value.
fucking rumors.
Right.
People love
People,
that's what essentially canceling somebody is
for
not done
sure.
generally over something that was investigated and tried and looked into where there's facts and we're really discussing the full situation. They get little bite-sized pieces of
Well, but
information,
you
make
can't do that with
full large scale.
everything. You can't. You can't. You just,
Well,
people don't
but
have time or
then it's
energy.
on people to either ignore things and not have an opinion. Like if you're going to have an opinion and consume the thing and not look into it and just take it at face value, that's fine. That's fine. You can't do that with everything. I agree. There's way too many things happening and there's only 24 hours in a day. It's way too overstimulated. We're all overstimulated. We know too much. That's
Yeah, but
fine.
those little things,
But
like if you doom scroll, you pick up little things and you catch little rumors, and those things shape not only your opinions and your thoughts, but eventually your identity if you do it too much. Like, I don't know if it's a conscious choice. I think we've kind of like the way that we've domesticated ourselves with all of our creature comforts, and it's kind of weakened us in ways. We've done the same thing with our thoughts, where we've shortened the depth of our subconscious because we're not able to. Like, the problem isn't even just what's being said; it's the concept of social media itself, which is everything is these quick little, and it's just too much. So much that
Yeah,
even if you are sort of guarding yourself from it and going, I'm just going to scroll, and then, but that's why it's important to follow. But even if you follow the post you like, even that'll give you bad information because it will be so quick that vetting everything's an echo chamber. So you either follow
right.
everything and take it not at face value, which to me is a waste of time, or you accept a little bit of the echo chamber if it's for, like, if you follow a fitness page because you want to get fitness tips, you might find out tips that aren't true. And then that's whenever you would take the personal accountability to go, hey, I'm going to I'm going to take this at arm's length, take it with a grain of salt. But people, I mean, social media was engineered in order to get our attentions. They didn't. I don't think they really.
Right.
Whether they didn't care, they didn't expect the ramification of that background radiation that is.
And that's what I think it is. I don't think they expected it. I don't think that it's some boogeyman that,
No.
engineered this from the start. And there's some secret. I do believe in secret societies to an extent, but I don't think in this case that Zuckerberg had the initial intention of, I mean, who knows? Who knows what happens? But I do think that this is an accidental byproduct that,
like nuclear energy. We did it for a reason, and it turned out well. Maybe that's a bad example. Sorry. It's like lead. We thought lead was the best thing ever. We thought it was asbestos, right? All this stuff that we think, and then it turns out it's a complete fuck up. That has happened through all of human history, except this time it hasn't just affected the country; it's affected the fucking world. And
but the difference is we removed lead from.
Andrew,
we
got
your mic.
Dude.
Oh, is it bad again?
Like, I can barely understand you. It's like, what are you talking into it?
My headphones. Does it go on and off, or how long has it been bad?
No, it's not on and off.
It's just kind of like
it sounds like you are eating your mic. Like one, like it's
wow.
Just,
okay, let's see.
I don't.
How long has that been for?
I mean, for a while. It's the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like like we get most of what you're saying. It's just sometimes once you start getting loud, especially, it's lost. Like it's just. But so we're gonna have to figure something out before the next stream, because like that is horrendous.
How's that? Can you hear me?
Oh yes.
I definitely.
Ooh.
Is that better? I went to my computer. Sorry, if you thought I don't know how long it's been for. I would have changed it then.
Oh well.
When in doubt, interrupt
I
me.
thought you were supposed to be using your computer from the start. God damn it.
Well, I didn't want the game noise to reverberate out or anything.
Well, Discord again has a noise gate that will keep that out for the most part.
How long was it like that? Was that like from the beginning?
I don't know. It didn't seem as bad at the beginning.
Maybe it got worse.
Seems to have gotten worse over the street. I guess going forward, use your computer, Mike. You sound like insanely better now.
Hello, everyone. Anyway, time to repeat everything I just said. So.
No, okay. I think we got most. I think. I don't know.
I hope.
Like Dan,
Great.
you were talking to Dan, and Dan seemed to get it. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry,
anyway.
I didn't mean to like.
No, that's all right. No, that's more important.
No, we needed to do that.
Damn it! How long was it for? I didn't want to. I don't know. Maybe it's whenever I don't talk.
I guess just watch the stream back after, and then you could sit there and cry for 3 hours.
I will, absolutely.
Tired.
Hindsight regret. I guess that's what regret is.
All right. Unrelated.
Oh.
I need you to meet me with coordinates.
Oh God, where are you? Wait, that coordinate stayed up even though I'm logged off. That's cool. Okay. Yeah, I don't think they engineered it that way. It's like lead. I was saying asbestos and lead we thought they were good things, so we used them and they affected the country. But now social media is affecting the whole world. That's a huge ramification. Right. We've never.
Well, and the difference is we removed lead, right? We got rid of it asbestos. We removed these things, but social media is now so woven into our culture and is still being pushed by so many different entities. And this is more than, and not to undermine all the asbestos or lead-related deaths. That's horrible, obviously. This is this is part of the fabric of our culture. This is our society now.
It's also a different
this is a way of living.
It's not as immediately telling how harmful it is. Like with lead, it's like there's physical ailments that you can now it's more
more
mental effects, which are harder to spot because it's like. Yeah, we all use social media, and you know what? We're fine. I mean, well, relatively speaking, but
mostly.
It's not like you walk out in public and people look at you and go, "Oh my God, he's been using social media. Look at him."
Yes.
You know, unless you literally look like the fucking doomer guy.
Intellectually, you can tell. You can tell by talking to people.
That's very interesting.
Yes.
Well, but they may not even see it that way. Like it's almost like it's affecting more people than it's not affecting, and that's I think part of this issue is I don't see like it's the new normal almost to use social
Sure.
media a lot and to subscribe.
It
to
totally is.
things
You know how I can prove that? There's QR codes on the fucking. That's proof that we all are expected to have our phones on us at all times.
Right.
There are
Right.
things
Right.
Codes on the fucking what?
On the menus for like restaurants and stuff. They just go, here you go. If you, hopefully you have your phone so you can scan the QR code. That's just proof that we're expected to have our phones, which, you know, is then
it's
saying
obviously that's more than just for social media. Like you
I meant
not operate.
Well, but if you have a smartphone for QR codes, you're using social media.
That's what I meant.
I mean,
not
like
not necessarily. Think of all the older folk that don't have social media. Like you almost
well, but
can't
they
get
hate
something
the
that isn't a
QR code
smartphone.
thing.
They're probably not using QR
Sure,
codes.
they hate it,
right?
but guess what? They
Right.
have their phones. Even older folk have smartphones now because like that's the only fucking type of phone you can get.
Old people are the unique case in this though, because they're not. They've spent their whole lives without it, so I think their habits are ingrained. They still go to bingo nights. They still go out and do stuff. I think it's our generations and even Gen X that is having the issues more so that we're talking about with communication and language and all that. So yeah, but you're right, boomers, but they're a unique case, I think, for with social media especially. Yes, I agree.
I was gonna say, like, the boomer generation just doesn't see it the same way. Like, my dad is on social media, but, you know, like, he doesn't, like, he'll post once in a while, and he's just, it's with, I think most of his friends list is just family and other boomers or whatever.
For sure.
And so,
he didn't grow up with it. That's a huge factor.
yeah, like, he doesn't, like, see it the same way. It's not like, he's not on there seeing all the shit we see. Like, because, like, my mom says that sometimes where, like, I'll bring up something that I'm seeing, like, everyone talk about on socials. And fucking, you know what, an example, let's not get into this right now. Maybe in the future. But the whole, like, on the news, whenever the latest Israel-Gaza stuff started happening, like, CNN's talking about, you know, Hamas, they're the terrorist group, blah, blah, blah. And then you get on social media, and then everyone's like, pro-Hamas support. And I was like, wait, what? What's going on? And then, like, I'll tell my mom about that. And she's like, what? No, that's got to be a small portion of people. I'm like, it is not, Mom. Like, you don't see it. They don't see that side of the world. And there is an argument to be made that, like, you know, like, well, I don't think there's an argument to be made that I'm terminally online because I actively try and avoid it. And I don't feel the want to get on there, but, yeah, like, there's two different worlds occurring. The older generation is still
for sure.
They get all their stuff from TV and news and stuff.
Newspapers.
The new generation is not doing that. They are like they're not even getting their fucking news from like what most people consider to be reputable outlets.
It's not even like a news outlet. Yeah, it's not even from the news. There is no news anymore.
It's straight up memes and other shit.
Yeah, it's just memes and posts and maybe things that news outlets share, but nobody takes Fox and CNN and MSNBC seriously. They're jokes, and they are, and they should be taken as that way.
Headline, like
that's another problem.
Like that, like the whole meme.
I remember
an extrapolation of that. It's an even quicker, shorter, and now it also has an element of like edgy comedy to it. Like,
yes, Talking Heads.
Yes,
Rachel Maddow. I hate that. I hate that so much. If there's anything I fucking hate, it's things that need to be factual becoming, well, subjective, becoming something in jest.
Right.
Becoming,
yes,
like,
I think I hate that more than anything too.
Opinion pieces that are put out like they're fat, like, and it goes back to, like, I think somebody just said it. We read it so quickly that we don't have time to digest it. Similar to the memes. I see that correlation. Similar to social media.
You don't have time to digest it. It's that you choose not to. It's that you read the fucking headline and you say, "Oh, that's my opinion." Boo. I hate.
Well, that's because of our habit that we've built up from social media. That's the habit.
Yeah, I would say it's a habit because of how many fucking things happen every day that people, for one reason or another, feel compelled to have an opinion on. I don't think not everything deserves an opinion, quite frankly.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Is that like I'm fine if all you do is read headlines, but then what I need you to do is shut up. don't even talk about it. Like, you don't know shit
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it. All you read was the fucking headline that said, I don't know, a bus blew up today. But then, like, you click on the article and it's a Rick roll. Like, maybe, like, it's just completely, like,
Yeah.
wrong. Like, there was nothing there. You didn't read it, though. And so you formed this opinion on nothing.
Well, I remember after it was after the what would that have been? The 2016 election, right after Trump won. I remember seeing a headline and it said, "Here's how Bernie could still win." And for those people who clicked on the article, it said, technically, there's actually absolutely no way. And this article is to prove that anybody who's sharing this,
It's so
if
dumb.
you read the article, is literally only just reading the headline because it's kind of like a gotcha. And I thought that was brilliant. I love that because I saw people sharing the article and I was like, oh man, there is no more of a way to, basically put a target on your back and tell the whole world that you didn't read the fucking thing. You go, oh look, there's still hope. And you're like, click on it. Just click on it. It's like the movie, and it's kind of a stupid movie, I think, but to Just Look Up, I know that there's a lot of things wrong with that movie, whatever, but I like that where it's like, just look up. There could be a meteor coming, and we'd be so busy fighting about it and memeing it and talking about all the other stupid, like we wouldn't even. Yeah, again, as a film, it's not any blockbuster, but I love the premise behind it. It's like, just look up, just take 2 seconds to verify what you're talking about. How can you talk about something and have nothing outside of an opinion? And if you do have an opinion, at least be able to justify it, not have it just be
say, At least just say, oh yeah, I saw the headline. That seems crazy, but I didn't read it more into it. Like, just say that.
Yes.
Right.
We're not willing to oust ourselves. We feel like it's ousting ourselves to say, sorry, I'm not caught up on the new thing, because then you seem like a fool or whatever. You seem like you're not part of the group because you're not able to talk about it.
Yeah,
it's more honest.
It is
tribalism. That's hard for me to understand even, because it's like, all it really takes, like, because if I don't know about something, I will say I don't know. Like, because I can't form, or like I'll just do a fucking modicum of research, just real quick, just
groupthink. It's groupthink.
Oh yeah, that's kind of crazy. Or
it is
groupthink.
groupthink.
If someone there does know about it and they're asking me about it, and I say, oh, I don't know, could you fill me in? And you know what? I'm probably going to be, depending on what it is, getting a biased fucking perspective on it. But at least I'm getting like whatever, man. Just say you don't know, and if you want to learn about it, ask about it or go read about it. If you don't fucking care, then shut up. Like I don't have an opinion on fucking everything. I can't, and I just don't care.
No, I don't
about
either.
some things. Like I just don't care. Other people.
I have an opinion on everything. I'm just
No,
kidding.
you don't. Yeah. Okay.
No, I
was
don't.
gonna say, yeah, liar.
I certainly can if given enough, or
Well, sure. Like if I read it,
I guess it really does come down to just caring.
But like, yeah, like I'm not.
Well, and I want to care if other people care, because generally there is a reason that a lot of people care about something, right?
Well,
Whether
sure.
it's even about the thing at all. It could be about whatever, some other, I guess maybe even unrelated or related issue that is manifesting itself through the thing. Like, and I think that, and this would be more of for a discussion around like the Israel-Palestine or the Ukraine-Russia thing. There's more to that than just the war. People are invested in that for more reasons than just because they support or want to support one or the other. There is a social element to this that can be unpacked, right? I think we would all agree on that. So, it's no longer, and Andrew, you said this recently, you said when people argue something or discuss something, they're generally discussing 2 or more things themselves at the same time. So you can discuss Israel-Palestine, but then it could be, you want to be on the right side of history, or you want to oppose evil, or whatever it is, like whatever you're arguing for. If you have an emotional belief or something where you're like, or it could just be because you, like you said, you don't want to go against your group because you might be seen as some far right-wing fascist, whatever, and then the other side you might be seen as a libtard or some other stupid term that people use. It's so stupid how we categorize human beings in this binary way, and you don't want to be called that, or you don't want to be ousted. Plain and simple. You don't want to be ousted from your group and canceled and targeted, and everybody, like, I think a lot of things are done out of fear. I don't even think it's done out
Absolutely. Did you read
of, even a lack of intelligence, maybe partially, but I think a lot of it is done out of fear. And they go, well, if I don't support Palestine like all my friends, or if I don't support Israel like all my friends, I'm going to have no one. I'm going to be alone. I'm scared to be alone. I'm going to be targeted. I could lose my job. I could lose whatever. It's scary. It sucks getting canceled. It sucks even having that threat, that kind of panopticon threat of at any given time, someone could be filming you or recording you or watching what you say and weaponizing it, especially going back to our fucking AI, deepfake, whatever stuff. That's a big common fear right now. And I totally get it. I don't think that that's an invalid fear. And I think that's causing people to spread fake news, to have disingenuous opinions, to even have opinions on things in the first place. Because if they don't, they're going to be called a fence sitter. They're going to be called, turning a blind eye to evil and allowing the next Hitler regime to come to. I mean, that's the extent that people go to further groupthink. That's why groupthink is so dangerous, because it evolves beyond just what. That's one reason it's dangerous. It evolves just beyond the actual issue itself. It now forms a hive mind that is capable of influencing the way that people think, even outside of the group of groupthink. It's like a cancer. It spreads.
I don't think
It's
groupthink
insane.
is inherently like dangerous or bad necessarily, because
I personally do.
Probably not, because groupthink, like we all, well, aside from like a select portion of people, everyone tends to think murder's bad, right? Groupthink is how we get certain things, like how we've all come to like social standards, certain things. But like it's not inherently bad. It's the echo chamber side of things. It's when you get groups of people that don't ever leave that bubble.
All right, I think we're misaligned on the definition of groupthink.
I just looked it up because I was curious. Yeah, sorry, you can go ahead.
Well,
it does say the practice of
hang on,
thinking.
Yeah, you
can
do.
go ahead. I'll do it.
Being
The
shot by
practice of
20
thinking
skeletons.
or making decisions as a group, resulting typically in unchallenged poor quality decision making. I think it's that's
all right. Fair enough.
Yeah. Whereas working as
I know
a
what
group
you're
is
talking.
good.
You're talking about like a collective agreement.
Yeah,
Really, it's just that actually I support. You need to be on common ground.
Yeah,
common ground that murder is wrong because it takes a human life.
I didn't realize it had like that negative aspect baked into it. That was my
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and it
So
comes from the book,
inherently-
of course, 1984. Groupthink was what kept everyone in check. Was this idea? The Big Brother was unseen, right? There wasn't an immediate threat like the way a pack of wolves. You go, okay, let's assess this threat. It's a wolf. Big Brother was this almost phantom, kind of like our NSA, if you want to almost literally like our NSA, where they're watching, but we can't watch. Kind of like the Panopticon. That's actually a great correlation.
I love the Panopticon.
If the fear of the thing keeps everyone in check, you don't even need the thing. If people live in their own echo chamber and they spread the idea and go, hey, we're afraid. Okay, I'm afraid. You're afraid. That means this fourth person is afraid. If they're not
right,
like it said, if they're not having that
association.
open discussion, right, it's like a virus. It's spread. Groupthink is like a virus.
It is a
It's
cancer.
intellectual viral. It's an intellectual virus.
Are you familiar? I know you are, Andrew. But Adam, you're familiar with the Panopticon concept, right?
Nope. That's why I asked what the fuck is that, because it sounds.
Okay, I was going to say before we kept talking about that. So the Panopticon, let me see exactly who coined it. Panopticon was part of. So it's actually design of institutional building, going back to our architecture conversation. These are all tied in. With an inbuilt system of control originated by the English philosopher and social theorist Jeremy Bentham. I was trying to remember the guy's fucking name. Jeremy Bentham. So the idea essentially is that it was, at least in this application, used as a design for a prison where the guards would be at the center. Yeah. Where the prisoners would never know if they were being watched. But because it was circular, or I guess cylindrical, it would be they could be watched at any time from any angle, and they could never escape the possibility of being watched at all times. So they were more likely, or rather, they were more likely to not do things, meaning they were less likely to act out or challenge the status quo, the institution, because they never knew if they were being watched. It was a constant possible surveillance, almost like a
fear is what ruled them. The potential fear is what kept them from doing it. When really there was nothing. Probably, I mean, they were prisoners, but that's
they might have been. They might have been watched, but all the guards might have left for the day. But they don't know that. You couldn't see in the center. So they said, well, we're always, and that's it. Think about all the surveillance cameras, like you said, the NSA, the data mining online. I mean, I could go on and on and on, right? A lot of these we already know. We live in a digital panopticon. We live in a literal panopticon. Go to one fucking street corner and find one that doesn't.
Digital panopticon. People would go, what the heck? That sounds awesome. And no one would read it.
It does sound awesome. Yeah, until you realize that we're in it, and then you realize that reality.
Well, that's what makes it a good book. It's the relatability of it.
Sounds like a death.
Yeah, digital panopticon.
It does. Digital panopticon.
Should have been on the Passengers last album.
Are we? Did you want us to go do fireworks, Daniel? We should probably leave.
I did. Yeah. So I think we're nearing the end because we've talked about a lot, and I don't want to go on too many tangents, but I think for me personally, final comments on the AI thing. I personally, not that my viewpoint has changed, but I think discussing this in length that we have has brought me to a place that now, having conversations with it, I'm almost going to about it online or anywhere else. I'm going to have to set a precedent or preface with, okay, I don't like almost with more questions even than demonstrative statement. Like, how much do you know about it? How much have you used it?
Find a common page. That's the first thing we should do with any discussion is go, okay,
even if it's just we agree on what it is.
Yeah, and then go from there and go, where do we immediately disagree? What's the first disagree? Well, I don't think that, music should be called this, when really it's called this. And then you go, it doesn't, of course we're going to disagree because our terms aren't determined. That's
right. None of us are speaking the same language.
Right. Now
that may be by design. I don't know. But with AI, we could sit here all day and find the practical applications for it and say if it's moral and what's art and what's music and can we develop intelligence that is equal to human where they're perfectly sentient and sapient and therefore have the ability and the intelligence and the rationale to create whatever. Sure, we can have that all day.
I mean, but we can have that discussion.
I want people. Sure, but I mean, like it almost is kind of moot in a way to even go down the rabbit hole more than we have.
The whole idea behind doing this is that we get potential listeners, people who want to hear it, and then hopefully we'll maybe take away some of the same, obviously we want people to have better discussions and all that stuff, more in-depth discussions. So
that's really all I want with the AI art thing. They're so nuanced and it's so new.
And and I don't care whether someone ends up still supporting it or not. It's whatever. At the end of the day, I just want the discussion to happen because potentially someone's mind can be changed. Shit, we could talk to someone who supports it that changes our mind into supporting it.
Maybe.
That'd be okay. I'm okay with that.
So it's kind of like what I think Steven Crowder's thing was supposed to be, but I don't think I've never saw him once get his mind changed, like the change your mind thing. I genuinely want to see if there are arguments for things that we discuss that maybe are different from my held beliefs. And this is just piggybacking off of what you said. That because I love having my mind changed. I want something to make me think that, just one, to explore it in a different way and see someone else's perspective. That's always fascinating to go, I didn't think of it like that. That's very interesting and cool. But to formulate just more of a nuanced opinion to go, okay, in this context, I don't agree with it. But, here, if it's applied this way or whatever, okay, yeah, I could support it. And again, especially as a supporter of artificial intelligence in a lot of ways, at least in the data and computing and side of things.
Yeah, and I mean, if we
I totally could be swayed.
Yeah, I was gonna say if we don't do that,
that's the point, right?
And that's living in the fucking same echo chamber we're bitching about, right?
Right, and that's why, friends, every thought counts. Good night, everybody.
Fucking cheesy ass ending. Ugh.
I love it. I don't care.
That's gross. I realize now also, because of all the hecticness at first setting this up, that we never introduced ourselves.
That's a good point.
I don't think we even technically introduced this podcast at all. But either way, I guess I'll just say I'm Adam. I'm the Crabman. That's me.
Crabman?
Yeah, I'm the fucking fourth dimensional oculary that discerns space and time.
And I'm Andrew. I'm the guy. I'm the human. I'm the real human here. I'm the guy person.
Yeah, and then I'm Daniel, whose profile picture is the ocular.
Yeah, I was gonna say you appear to be identifying as a spaceship right now, Andrew. So.
Oh, yeah. I'm the little rocket ship. I see what we're doing. Sorry, I'm not doing well.
Yeah, hence why I called myself a Crabman.
Oh, I didn't hear you say that because I suck at everything. Okay, got it. Crabman.
But
I'm spaceship.
That was fun though. If nothing else, I just like the conversation. Like,
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
even if we had
it's
one
fun.
viewer or no viewers, fuck it. It's still fun to talk about this stuff. Like,
I sadly created us a Twitter account, so I'll start promoting and shit. But
Cool.
anyway,
boy,
that's
you want to
for...
talk about a fucking
Yeah, I know. Kill me now, please. Anyway, though, yeah, that's episode 1 on AI art, and I guess several other tangential things. But yeah, anyway,
Love
later.
it. That's exactly how I wanted it to go.
All right. Thank you very much.
All righty. Peace out. I'll see you this weekend,
Sure.
probably.
Yeah.